Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
I love the efficiency of bourbon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Oh, yeah. Where's Dan Aguirre? Where's my god of Dan? There he is. How are you, Dan Aguirre?
I'm great. When the Bears win, it makes everything better. It does. I told your wife that, and again, she thinks I'm full of shit, and that's okay. But it does. It puts an extra, extra imp in your pimp, like something about your step. The sky seems bluer. The sun seems warmer. I don't know. It does. I'm in a great mood, even though the game was almost a week ago now. I'm great. How about you?
I feel great about the win. Looking back on it, I say to myself, man, it's too bad we didn't hold on against the Broncos because that was there, and the record would have been 2-3. But I do believe that the Bears can get on a winning streak here if the defense can play better, and there's no reason they shouldn't because they got returning defensive backs coming. And with this offense apparently now moving the ball, that helps. That always helps out a defense. And if Matt Eberflus can continue to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks, I know Kirk Cousins is a seasoned vet. He's seen every blitz in a book, but he still gets rattled out there, which is why he's never won an NFC championship, why he's never been to the Super Bowl. He is not the perfect veteran. So Eberflus, if you know what you're doing, go after this guy and rattle him. He'll throw the ball to the wrong place.
Especially Jefferson, even if he plays, is going to have a gentle hamstring. We know that he's probably going to be in there, I would think, but not 100%. And so exploit that. And we haven't had a Bears coordinator since probably Buddy, who was like, let's go get the quarterback. And that's what beat Washington.
Yep.
Was the ability, even with all those backups and reserves and other people hurt and who's number 30? Who knows? But he's in the game right now. The secondary, with nobody in there other than Stevenson that we knew and Brisker. And that's it. And it's or Jalen Jones, I guess. But still, he's way at the bottom of the depth chart. They still got it done because they were going after the quarterback. And I think he was playing for his job that night. And I think he knows it. And he was like, fucking, I'm going out swinging.
Yeah, I love the quote that Brad Biggs reported in the Chicago Tribune from Jalen Johnson, who said, at halftime, Eberflus came in and said, we're going to keep the pressure on. We're going to continue to attack. We want everybody to attack. We want Luke Getsy to attack, although he really got conservative there for a little while. But he, it sounded like you're absolutely right. A guy fighting for his job, who was, swinging his way out of this mess that he helped to create. So Danny Shimon is going to join us at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. Danny feels that Ryan Poles should be fired at the end of the year, and so we're going to talk to him about that. He doesn't believe DJ Moore is a number one receiver. I disagree with both of those points, so we'll
definitely the latter.
Yeah, what is that? Why would you think he? So you believe DJ Moore is a number one receiver, right?
Other than Brandon Marshall. Like he fits the part. I mean, other than Brandon Marshall, he's like who I thought was honestly the best receiver that we ever had as a Bears, and just pure talent, just pure talent. And of course, he never had the stats that DJ had the last two games, at least in a Bears uniform.
Right.
So yeah, I'm ultra impressed with him. And I mentioned this at the time of the trade. A lot of people wanted to elevate Allen Robinson. I'm not taking a shot at him, but I didn't think he was like an undisputed number one. I think this guy, other than Danny Shimon, is an undisputed number one. I don't know who else is taking jabs at him now, but I don't want to seem like that this is not a safe place for dissenting opinions, because I remember how much shit I took when I thought Khalil Mack was overrated. So I don't want to attack Danny, but I do want to repudiate him, though.
Yeah, we're going to repudiate him. And I think, what he's referring to is in the NFL. So I made my own list of the top receivers. I think Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown are 1, 2, 3. Devontae Adams is 4. Cooper Kupp is 5. Jamar Chase is 6. Diggs from Buffalo is at number 7. I have DJ Moore at number 8. The kid from Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 9, and CeeDee Lamb, had him sneaking into the 10. He's got so much talent, but he just does not have a good rapport with Dakota Prescott. So I had him at 10. But there's no reason why, I'll show this list to Danny Shimon. There's no reason why, he shouldn't consider DJ Moore a top 10 wide receiver in the league. What are your thoughts?
I was about to ask you, I don't mean to answer your question with a question, but, right. And I know maybe we can use this sort of as like a radio tease, but what is the thesis behind his, I don't want to say not liking DJ, but thinking that DJ is overrated?
Yeah, we'll let him explain that, and I think that is a great tease. We'll definitely get him to explain that. And also, what are your thoughts about Ryan Poles? He feels like Poles has made so many mistakes that if the season were to end today, Ryan Poles should be fired. You agree with that, or somewhat agree with it?
He has made some mistakes, but the biggest one being Chase Claypool. But overwhelmingly at the time, most people, not everybody, but it was lauded as a good aggressive move, because we needed wide receivers, and it looked like on paper that was going to be a good move. He took a swing, he missed, but I'm not going to fire the guy over it, especially in his, his second season as the general manager. I think he deserves a lot more time. If Ryan Pace got 6, 7 seasons, then you got to, you got to give Ryan Poles at least 4. At least, especially with his he's lined up the draft next year to have 2 first-round picks. And what's the guy that brought? He was getting Bernard Berrian on for us, and that gentleman that represents
Will Wright.
Did you see his tweet? He was saying potentially that the Bears, if Justin can continue to play like this, then the Bears can trade the Carolina pick again. And then get have a second straight year of 2 first-round picks, or maybe 3 picks the following year. So exactly. if Justin could nail this down, I mean, who knows, man? As the cliche goes, let Ryan Poles cook a little bit. I will say that I do agree with your wide receiver list. I think Jefferson from Minnesota is the best. I thought Tyreek Hill would suffer without Mahomes. I was wrong on that. Your list is pretty spot on there. And I do think DJ Moore's top 10. I do. Maybe it's in the lower top 10, but he's top 10.
Without a doubt. I mean, this guy is a running back when he catches the ball. He is so elusive. He breaks tackles. He spins away from tacklers. He can break, a 10-yard catch into an 80-yard gain. He's got it all. And one of the things that I'm going, if Danny continues to maintain this, one of the things I'm going to talk about is because he's always saying this about Justin Fields. Well, look who's around him. Look who's coaching him and so forth. Who did DJ Moore have? He had one good season of Caine Mutiny in his rookie season. After that, he had Teddy Bridgewater, the guy that's in Tampa Bay now. PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold.
PJ.
Yeah, I like him too. But he's not a number one quarterback, right? He's a serviceable backup. And
here goes a good question on PJ. Not to interrupt you, I apologize. Ponder this though. You know how they change? Obviously, they've made a change on offense the last 2 weeks for Justin to start playing really, really good football the last 2 weeks. Now, of course, I know he threw the pick against Denver. We were critical of him for that, but he's had 8 touchdowns in 2 weeks. What if PJ Walker was playing that same kind of offense that Justin's playing now? Maybe he'd still be here as opposed to the things that Fields was struggling with.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. I don't think we'll ever know. I for some reason, PJ just doesn't seem like the guy he was at Carolina. Maybe it's just the offense. He was picked up by some team. I know he's on the practice squad for some team. Maybe we'll see him at quarterback again and get a better idea of, truly – because he was a guy that played at the USFL, right? Or the XFL or
one of those other leagues. But he did well with Carolina. Every time I saw him, he was – last year I was watching other games despite the fact that the Bears were losing. This year I still have not watched one other game yet. But maybe if the Bears keep winning. I started to take a peek on that Minnesota KC game. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to watch – I'm going to exercise and just watch movies. That's what I did. I didn't watch any other football still.
I love it. Did you get a chance to go see the Exorcist film?
No. I'm trying to wait until my birthday. That's the goal.
Okay.
If it's still going to be there on Halloween, I don't know. And that fucking right winger set off all the alarm. I'll go take that. Mark Levin or whatever.
Oh, I hate that guy.
Yeah, he whispers shit into the mic like, fuck Biden, I hate Biden.
Really?
But he talks so low, it makes our system think the station's off air.
Oh my goodness.
So if you can bear with me a second, I got to turn the fire alarm off, which is the station alarm. Just give me 20 seconds or maybe 45. I'll be right back.
Take as long as you need. That's Dan Aguirre. He's actually at his place of business. And as you can hear, the alarm is off. And that's the signal that one of the radio shows needs to be reset. He's responsible for a network of programming, including political discourse. Cliff, you're absolutely right. Once Mooney and Fields start clicking, Bears are going to have something really good. And that's one of the concerns that I have regarding Justin. Dan sounds like he's going to come back, and I want to make sure I share this with him. Dan, you got your headsets on?
I am here.
All right, I got a concern for you regarding Justin Fields. There's no doubt that he's been playing really well these last 2 games. He's doing things that we've wanted him to do, pull the trigger. The one thing that I'm concerned about is that now he is so focused on DJ Moore. Can he reestablish this connection with Darnell Mooney? And when the double teams start coming to DJ Moore, is he going to continue to pass for 300 or close to 300 yards a game by utilizing the tight end and Darnell Mooney and the other players on this team? I think that he will, but he's got to prove it to me, because one of the things that he has done during his career is that he tends to fixate. It was Darnell Mooney for his first couple of seasons in the league. Tends to fixate on the wide receiver. And when you got a guy, a number 1 wide receiver like DJ Moore, that's okay. But eventually they're going to double, sometimes maybe even triple team him. And so there should be open receivers there. He had Darnell Mooney open a couple of times and he missed them. The pass to Khalil Herbert was a miss that may have caused this injury that he has. Do you have any concerns like that?
Yeah, the Mooney when the chemistry does seem to be a little bit off, like the whole season. And it just seems like all of the throws to Mooney are just either a little bit too far out of the way or too short. There's always something, just a tinge off. I don't know if I'm concerned about it, but my larger concern to me is, okay, so we basically cut Claypool. We got a 6th-round pick, but we just wanted rid of him. He had to be gone. And now St. Brown left the Washington game, and I'm not assuming that he's hurt, but there's a chance he might not play Sunday. So, go okay without Claypool, without St. Brown. Does that make Velus number 3?
Yeah, I think so. Velus I think so.
So, I mean, that's what concerns me. So I think maybe we'll see a lot more of Tanyan, maybe Lewis coming in, like 2 or 3 tight end sets. I love that my guy Foreman should get some playing time Sunday. I truly believe that guy's a fucking beast, man. And I've been pounding the drum for Foreman the whole. So why is he inactive? Why is he inactive? He could be, but he hasn't said anything, thankfully, because maybe we'd have traded him too. But hopefully he's going to show out on Sunday. But your point about Mooney is a good one. Don't focus too much like what we saw with Cutler and Brandon Marshall, for example.
Yeah, I think that the Bears last week, I read this. I'm trying to remember the exact figure. Yeah, the 12 personnel, the 2 tight ends, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, they use that 42% of the time against Washington, and they used the 3 wide receiver formation 42%. That's the first time in the Luke Getsy era that they've used that 2 tight end formation as much as they have.
Great stat.
I like it.
Yeah.
Don't you? I love having Tanyan and Komet on the field at the same time. And then even, having Mercedes Lewis get his 15, 20 snaps subbing in for one of those 2 guys. Isn't that
love
awesome?
that little throw, dare I compare him to Brett Favre, but that little fling he did to Lewis when he was in trouble.
Yes.
Favre did that to us for like 20 years.
Oh,
where you almost have him, and then there's William Henderson, the fullback who has 5 career catches, all against the Bears. And finally we did that to another team with Mercedes Lewis, who did that to us when he's in Green Bay. So yeah, I like seeing that. That's a really good stat. Yeah. I am concerned with they just signed a cat though to the practice squad that's like 6'6". I don't know anything about that. Someone just mentioned it on the chat.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see what he's got.
His name is Collins. I looked him up. He was a 5th or 6th round draft pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2020, caught 18 passes in his rookie season. He was released around the time of training camp, and the Giants picked him up. He picked up another 15 passes and then has been in the practice squad for the Giants the last season or 2, and that's where the Bears picked him up. He runs around a 4.6, so he's not a speedster, but he is a huge target at 6'6". There's no doubt about it.
You need a slant. You need a guy to run across the middle. Boom, hit him right between the numbers. 6'6".
Exactly.
Like it.
Yeah, I'm excited about this 12 personnel, and if they play that like Bruce Ollie, Walter Jordan's, finally they're playing that formation, that would be good. Cliff Victoria says that Deontay will be a lead back unless Roquan is 100%. You know what? I think that's going to be a great 1-2 punch, but I would not at all be surprised if Deontay Foreman gets 75% of the snaps because Roquan may not be ready, and they might have to use Darrington Evans, who they picked up.
I've got a question for you on that. I don't know the rule to this. So by signing him off of the Dolphins practice squad, bringing him back here, Evans has to be on the active roster, correct?
That is correct.
So let's say within 2 weeks or 3 weeks or what have you, all of our backs are healthy again. Foreman and Roquan and Khalil Herbert. Can we put him on the practice squad, or does he go back to Miami automatically if he's not on our active roster?
I think there's eligibility. So as a veteran, if he still has practice squad eligibility, he goes back to the Bears practice squad, which I believe that he does.
Okay, I thought we lost him back to Miami because if we got him off their practice squad, he had to be on our active roster.
Yeah, if anybody in the chat knows the answer to that, I think Cliff Victoria is referring to it now and saying correct that. Cliff, are you saying that he goes back to Miami or that he would come with Chicago? If you know, please answer that. I'm excited about this Bears team. Not that I'm not predicting playoffs, but I do think that they can get a nice little streak going on here. See what Jeremy says here. He can choose the practice squad he wants.
Oh,
says Jeremy. Oh, that's pretty cool. He better choose the Chicago Bears. Now, in the preseason, didn't he score a touchdown against the Bears and he kind of taunted the Chicago Bears fans?
I remember the touchdown, but I didn't remember. That was the game that Fields played terribly in, that last one. Yeah. I don't remember who the opponent was at this point. Who was it?
Was it the Giants? I don't know.
It was that game where Fields just looked really terrible in the final preseason game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember him taunting, but I remember him scoring, though.
Yeah, I definitely remember the taunting and thinking, that son of a... I hate it when former Bears guys taunt the Bears, like David Montgomery did when he left. I'm tired of losing. They sucked the fun out of the game. And who else? Roquan Smith might have said something. I got this paternal attitude about my Bears. I'm the only one allowed to criticize them.
It does piss me off, the Roquan, because he was so up and down the whole time he was here. It's just like, come on, man. The Bears paid you well.
Yeah. Jeremy is absolutely right. Darrington Evans was with the Titans when he scored that touchdown in the preseason. And I definitely remember him getting into the end zone and looking at the fans and doing some gesture that I considered to be a taunt. Nonetheless, he's back to being a Chicago Bears. I like the guy. He can do it all. He can block. He can run. He can catch the pass out of the backfield. It's a nice. He's a nice backup to have. I bet you he will see action at special teams, which is always important. We don't talk about special teams enough. These guys can really set the stage to give the defense or the offense a half of the field to play. And I think Richard Hightower has done a solid job. He's pretty decent at what he does. Stephen Mee reminds us about Adrian Amos being a dick.
Oh, yeah.
For a certain team that smells like cheese.
Exactly. Yeah.
What did you think about the Packers yesterday losing to the Raiders? Looked bad.
I didn't see a second of it. I just saw the final, and I was happy. Yeah, Alshon doing like the Hulk Hogan big ear in the playoff game. I just made me fucking hate him forever. Mr. Soft Tissue Issue.
Yeah,
Alshon
really. Jeffrey. Yeah. He's out of the league now, isn't he?
He got his Super Bowl ring, though, and we're still envious. Still envious. One thing I'm really concerned about, though, I just hope, my biggest fear Sunday, other than actually losing, my biggest fear is that Eberflus just is like, oh, okay, I survived that. Let's go back to what we do now.
Yeah.
And tries to force that system on the defense again, because that's what Matt Nagy could never do. If he had success running the ball, he was going to go back to shotgun and throwing 90% of the time, because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. I hope Eberflus is able to say, well, you know what? We didn't have any pressure. We had 2 sacks, but by God, we started generating pressure, and it was working. Yeah. So maybe that's what you have to do with the talent that you have right now. Maybe that's not ideal, but play to the strengths of your team. And I hope he's able to do that. I hope they're able to do that with Justin and not try to put him back in the same shit he was running in the first 3 weeks. Just keep going with what's working. And
the same can be said about Luke Getsy. Like, for instance, these quarterback sneaks, they finally started using the tush push, which is almost a guaranteed first down on a 4th and short or 3rd and short. And, it always seems like Getsy is just a little slow to adapt to what the Bears need to get done. And now that he has done whatever he's done to help Justin Fields and DJ Morse get this connection going, and to help Justin pull the trigger faster, whatever he's done, please continue to do it, because this quarterback, Justin Fields, looks like a stud, a superstar, if he can continue to play the way he's done for 5 quarters in these last 2 games.
And
it's
more importantly,
totally possible.
More importantly, show the home crowd that, man. They haven't won a game at Soldier Field since week 3 of last season against Lovey and the Texans. Our man Chris Watts is going to be at the game, coming all the way from England. Let's show show the crowd at Soldier Field what Justin can do. I know the Denver game was at home, but let's see some success for the guy at home so all the Bears fans can rally around him too.
Yeah. Bruce Holly Walter Jordan says, shut up, Dan. He is not the BHF, I hope. What does that mean? Do you know? BHF?
I don't know who he's criticizing me about. Like which player? Is it because I'm talking about Justin or?
No.
Maybe he can expand on that. I'm not trying to be a dick back. I just don't know what he's talking about.
Trying to be a dick back. I like that. Subtle jab.
I appreciate him listening or watching. I really do.
He's one of my favorites. You should have heard Squeegee today. He was with Mike North and Squeegee, and Mike North would say, "Squeegee, you should be over off the expressway, the Kennedy Expressway on North Avenue, asking for quarters and cleaning people's with that name." Of course, Mike said it a lot funnier than I did. Bears Hall of Famer Omar Bears. Oh, he's asking, was it Bears Hall of Famer? Is that what probably passive aggressive? I don't know what's going on. We need more info, and then we'll be a dick too. I love that. All right. Should we do our media mashup? Because here's the plan. If we do the media mashup now, it's about 25 minutes. You and I will have about 10 minutes to talk about it. Then we'll bring the Tooch in, who's got a special Bears State of Affairs. And he's not disagreeing with me. So
I think he's working on some editing for an old film he was in. They're putting it on DVD.
What would that title be?
Something about... let me see. What would that? Oh, that hurts, but don't take it out of my ass.
I've never seen that one, and I probably never will. He's eating chicharrones, actually, which are really, really good. If you've got a cholesterol or a high sugar problem, chicharrones are excellent. But the thing is, they are so fucking dry. I can't. I like the taste, but they're too fucking dry for my taste. I have to drink a beer, and that kind of defeats the purpose. Anyway, all right, so media mashup, Santucci, and then we'll bring in Danny Shimon. We'll throw tomatoes at him. All right? So here we go.
Every win in football, it's precious, and we haven't seen it in a long, long time, almost a calendar year. All that being said, so many good things tonight. I thought the offensive line, and later on I will detail exactly how, essentially, we were playing with three backups and a rookie along the offensive line, and yet one thing that we all talked about in the pregame and all week long was the supposedly great defensive line of the Washington Commanders, and they were almost a non-factor. The offensive line did such a terrific job, and even late in the game, when all of our backs were hurt and Blasingame had to carry the ball, our fullback, they were still able to kind of bang it out, burn the clock, and find a way to win. But
Danny, what I think it was our offensive game plan. And looking at that, going back quickly over here to 4 quarters, I mean, my God, how many times do we sit in the studio and tell, where's the play action? Where's the play action? Where's the sprint outs? I'll tell you what, first play of the game, they came with play action. They are offensively, we were finally aggressive, and defensively, we were finally aggressive. And I wrote that word down. 2 things. I wrote down, throw caution to the wind, and then I wrote down right there, Dan, aggressive play. Finally.
And that's what we had to have. And it's so rewarding to finally see, the game plan, executed in an aggressive fashion, as you said. But think about this, Andy, DJ Moore, there's no doubt he's the best player on this football team. And yet, the first 3 weeks of the season, he was MIA. Finally, last week, we started throwing the ball to our best player. He responded with his best game thus far of the season. Today, he doubled down.
And
he had 8 catches. What is it?
230.
230 yards. It was an incredible game plan execution night for the Chicago Bears.
A guy who didn't want to be in the dirt anymore, Hoodie. He's put 2 performances together that are fantastic. In back-to-back weeks, Fields is completing 67% of his passes for 617 yards, 8 touchdowns, just 1 interception, and a 131.3 passer rating. Still has a ways to go, and the productivity needs to consistently become wins, but shot or no shot, Justin Fields has finally flipped the switch.
That's a no shot. Because it's about consistency.
Correct.
2 games in a row does not tell you about an entire season.
Talk to me in a month.
That's a fair assessment.
Right. If you string 6 really good games together, but it doesn't. 2 good games against certainly one subpar defense in Denver and an okay defense in Washington with a great front 4 does not mean that you erase everything that's happened, but it certainly is trending in the right direction.
You got some momentum. It's light momentum, but you have some momentum. This could happen against Minnesota, too, where the Bears could be able to get points on the board.
No question about it.
So it's very possible. I would say no shot because, again, this is just a glimpse of what the offense could look like if you give the quarterback time, if DJ Moore is open, if. And that's the whole thing, man. When you haven't won in a calendar year, you got to woe that thing. Hang on a second. Let's see what happens against Minnesota.
The other thing, Hoodie, too, you mentioned if DJ Moore's open. How about if you trust him when he's not open, too? Because there were a lot of really nice throws, DJ Moore getting covered, and he goes and makes a play. That was, like, what we saw last night, to me, felt more legitimate than the spurts we saw last year where Fields took over games with his legs. Last night felt like a legitimate NFL operation.
Yes, it did.
On every level. That's what we talked about at the start.
Yeah.
Great point, Shay. Absolutely. On every level, it looked like a competent NFL operation. And by the way, as you drink your coffee, go to work, pick the kids up, or drive the kids to school, or whatever it is man or woman is doing out there, know this stat. Tied for the league lead in touchdown passes are 2 quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins and not Patrick Mahomes. Justin Fields.
Probably helps he's played an extra game.
Okay, whatever. Stop pissing in my cornflakes. Right now, this morning.
What's wrong with that? It's good protein. Go ahead.
It's sterile. It's sterile.
Touchdown passes, 11. 11.
Tasty.
Take that.
Why does my cereal taste like an IPA?
Fishing for team culture and chemistry questions to Olin Kreutz, right? And he validated that part of it. He said, yeah, they've got a thing going, and like you're seeing some culture things, some good things. But then, as part of his answer, he said this.
That offensive line you saw last night on the field, they don't have a talent problem, right? Tevin Jenkins, Darnell Wright, Nate Davis, these guys have a lot of talent, man. When you watch them play, Tevin Jenkins there at left guard, he is a handful, man, with his size and his athleticism. Darnell Wright, we've been raving about him. These guys now, if they can get going, if they can figure out how to play every week and be consistent, they will be an exciting group to watch.
So they're playing hard. They have been blocking well, and it's not just culture and togetherness, yada, yada. Olin says they're talented. They don't have a talent deficiency. So we've been wanting this to be a no excuses year for Fields, or framing it that way. And he's got DJ Moore, so we know he's got that. But in terms of the offensive line, there's our offensive line experts saying they are talented. They don't have a talent problem. So I believe that the offensive line is good enough to qualify as for a no excuses evaluation of Justin Fields.
I agree, but I would just also take it the step further of, man, when you've been in the league for 3 years, it doesn't really matter. Like, unless you have missed a season, if you've blown out an Achilles, something like that, you're going to have to show it. And so Larry Borum is not great, right? Lucas Patrick has had some real rough moments. That's the NFL.
Yeah.
Jordan Love has played multiple games, his first year as a starter, without his 4 best offensive players, without Christian Watson and Aaron Jones and Elkton Jenkins and David Bakhtiari. He's played multiple games. So those would be excuses, and they are. Maybe they're explanations if you want to frame it that way. It depends on your perspective. But, like, if you're a rookie, that stuff flies. If you're in a first year with a new coach and a new system and there's a learning curve, it flies. But I really do think that there's enough here. Maybe they're the 20th best offensive line in football. Maybe they're the 8th. I don't know what they are. But it's a representative NFL offensive line.
This is life in the NFL.
This is life in the NFL. Exactly. It's not these guys, if they got cut, they'd be working at Home Depot. You know, they are NFL players that would find their way onto other rosters if they weren't here. It's good enough to get an evaluation.
Good.
And
because last year, one of the things that was always brought up about Fields is like, he doesn't have time, man. Are you watching here? And then we'd say
good run blocking, bad pass blocking.
Right. And then we'd say, no, but he's holding it a long time, I think. Or no, he's not. What is he supposed to do? And we haven't really had much of that conversation in terms of, like, is the offensive line a problem? Because it's not. It's not a problem.
My eye test tells me they're playing pretty well.
Dude, against that defensive line from Washington, in no doubt passing situations of 3rd and a bunch or 2nd and a bunch, they held their own and created a pocket for him. And he either made the plays or didn't make the plays. Most of the time he did. Every once in a while he would miss. But watch yourself. As you're evaluating Fields the rest of the year, and not saying this to you, but like saying it to the listeners who are watching, you no longer can say, well, this offensive line is crap. That's not the case anymore. And the results are showing it. And the offensive line analyst that we pay is saying it.
The Bears blitz 28% of the time against Sam Howell, a quarterback who is known to hold on to the ball way too long. Kirk Cousins, not that guy. Kirk Cousins sacked once in 61 attempts last year against the Bears in 2 games. But there's no Justin Jefferson. And Matt Eberflus is calling the signals. Do you expect the lack of a Jefferson on the field and maybe with Matt Eberflus calling the signals for the Bears to be more aggressive this week than even they were against the Commanders?
No, I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because they caught Washington off guard.
Okay.
Washington was not prepared for those pressures where Minnesota will be. Minnesota will have answers for their pressure. I think they'll keep mixing it in. 26%?
28%.
28%. That's probably as most, I think Dallas was somewhere in the 30s. The highest blitzing team in the NFL is the Giants with Wink Martindale. I think they're at 42%. I was looking at that yesterday. So,
it's the Bears were at 14.5%, I think, through the first few games of the season. And this is a dramatic increase.
Right. Oh, 100%. I think they had success with it. The players like it. So, you're going to have to keep doing it. You had success with it. The players like it. So they're going to mix it in some. I just don't think it'll be that 28, close to 30%. Okay. I mean, if you get up into 20, 25%, and a lot has to do with the game too. How is the game unfolding? I mean, the first time that they do show a pressure, what does Minnesota do? And that'll determine a lot what they do the next, down the road.
Extrapolated numbers for Justin Fields if he were to play like this all season. He's on pace for 3,886 yards passing, 37 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, along with 650 rushing yards, 3 more touchdowns, 7 fumbles. The fumbling is something that he has to get better than. I really like Caleb Williams. I do have more questions than most about him. One of them is, how tall is he? Because I know he's listed at 6'1", but I don't know if he's 6'1". Okay? That's something that will hopefully be figured out by the time he gets to the combine, and then maybe next year we'll be seeing him play for someone and be like, he's teeny, tiny, just like Bryce Young is. I think he's more athletic and has a more athletic build than Bryce Young, just for the record. He's really talented. He also If you watch the second half of the game against Colorado, he made some plays in that game in the first half that just have you salivating over him as a prospect. He made some throws in the second half of that game and some decisions in the second half of that game that allowed Colorado to make that a one-possession game. My thing is that at the end of this, if at the end of this season, the Bears quarterback accounts for 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns, you're just going to throw that away?
I'm not. I think the idea of them, we'll hear about the contract clock, which to me is as difficult as it is, and the number of variables, the number of things that have to go right to shepherd anyone to quarterbacking success in the NFL. I think to say, well, then, you're back on the rookie deal, that's too cute by half, because that takes away, and this is me arguing this, all of the humanity involved, and then everything you have to do to optimize that quarterback situation with all the pieces around him, when little nuances about how they play the game a little bit differently, they have preferences, and you need to steer everything and anything that you do around making sure that guy is developing and comfortable. It's almost, you're just making life difficult for yourself, unless you think that no matter what, you just plug that guy in, and from jump, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league and only ascending thereafter into top 5 and top 1.
And I think that that's a very dangerous game to play, because I think this goes along with kind of my working theory on the kids who grow up as RPO dudes and how long it takes them to really become accomplished NFL passers. You also want to make sure that it lines up with where you don't want to have to wait for him to develop, like you're saying, Dan. Like, it should be like, oh, we're going to drop this guy in and it's going to make a difference. I would also, while people love to throw the concept of, well, you know who's bad? Ohio State quarterbacks. Let's talk about Lincoln Riley quarterbacks for a second. They crush it in college. That system that they run, those guys play it really well, but he kind of has a type too. Little undersized, athletic out the wazoo. Baker in college was athletic out the wazoo. It's caught up to him now in the NFL after getting pounded for 6 years. And Kyler too. Kyler, not available to you. You could use that number 1 pick to help you in other areas. I don't know if you want to you could move down to number 2 and still take Marvin Harrison, for example, if that's what you wanted to do. Or you could ransom the number 1 pick and end up with even more bites at the apple of getting playmakers all over the field, versus we're going to use this to bring in the quarterback, even though the quarterback that we just saw finally got to the point in the development curve where you feel like you could go on and build.
I think it's a good sign and an encouraging sign that I was watching football yesterday going, I can't wait to watch Justin in the offense again, though, next week, because I want to see if it's legit, if it's for real, if things are going to look different, if they're going to be more explosive, if they're going to be better, if he and DJ Moore are going to continue this thing they have going on. If Mooney gets more involved in the offense as he gets healthier, I think naturally he will. I think he will too.
Naturally he will, because more attention will be paid to DJ Moore. So there'll be no other option but to go there. And they went to him 3 times, just 3 incomplete passes.
Yeah, and 2 of them, I think the quarterback will tell you, hey, those were on me.
Yeah.
I've got to be better.
Yes. I think he would tell you that.
I think he would tell you in 2 seconds that he's got to be a little bit better.
Remember, I said he had 4 throws. 4 throws and the underthrow to Herbert when he was on the move to the left.
Yes.
Which injured him. He tried to make a play on it, and he ended up getting injured because of it.
Yeah, so I'm excited for Sunday, and we haven't been able to say that very often, right? I'm excited to see if they can continue this, if Justin has turned some sort of a corner, if he can string games together, because you can't do it 2 or 3 times and then revert back. Let's see if he's really becoming the quarterback that the Bears need him to become, and that's a quarterback that is decisive, that is making quick decisions, that's seeing it and throwing it. It's been the biggest criticism, the biggest critique that I think we've had all along of Justin. There's too much indecision. The last 2 weeks, we have not seen that. He's been a more decisive quarterback. As you pointed out, he's been a quarterback willing to stand in the pocket amidst pressure in the face of blitzes and still deliver the football down the field. Can he continue to do that? Can he string it together? That's the next step in the maturation process. He's got a lot of weeks to do it still. So we're going to find out. And yeah, I'm like oh, I can't wait for them now to get back on the field. I want to see if this offense is really turning a corner. 1,000 yards in 2 games, 8 touchdown passes, 1 interception in 2 games for Justin Fields. 1,000 yards of offense or nearly that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgive me for getting a little excited, but I'm starting to get a little excited.
Good signs.
I don't care who it's against. Those are good signs.
Your best case
I want to see it
scenario
continue.
is not worrying about the kid from USC or the kid from North Carolina. Your best case scenario is this guy hits.
Yes.
You pick up the 5th-year option. You watch more, and then you use that first pick to trade to somebody who wants to overpay for Caleb Williams or what's his name, Jason Day?
Drake May?
Yeah, whatever. Drake May, some college kid that either can be a bust or something special in the NFL. Odds are he's going to be a bust.
Well,
that's the way it works
odds
out.
are, I probably
we take
do favor
the best of the college and we figure out who they are. We take your best from college and we figure out who's a bust or not.
And that's something
the way the NFL does it.
The odds probably do favor that player being a bust, don't they? Like if you look at the historical averages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's hope Justin Fields gets these next 12 under his belt, and he's as impressive as he's looked the last 2 weeks. If he can put a nice run together, then you've got your answer at quarterback. And now you can trade away that first pick, hopefully to Arizona, because Arizona needs something, right?
And started getting a little bit concerned about Justin Fields and what I was seeing. Mays was telling us that he's a little worried about the way Justin processes and things like that. And he's turned out to be right.
There was plenty of video evidence to support that concern.
Yes. So what we want to know now is, do you believe after the last 2 games of Denver and the Commanders that we are maybe starting to see Justin Fields have some true growth here?
It's progress for sure. And I think that's absolutely encouraging. And the whole formula this offseason that I was hoping would click into place if this went well is you have a number 1 receiver in DJ Moore, and he kind of speeds up that process. When you trust those matchups and you're willing to take them consistently, that allows your quarterback to play faster. It's exactly what happened with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown last season. And that was the best case scenario. And we saw that. That's what we saw on Thursday night. So it steps in the right direction. I don't think we need to make any grand proclamations at this point, but it's encouraging nonetheless.
I would say, Robert, on top of that, the fact that they finally were able to close out a game and they did it with 0 turnovers, to me, was maybe the biggest sign of growth from him and that offense.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing that from last year, beyond the processing speed, it was the ratio of negative plays, the turnovers, but also the sacks, the catastrophic plays. And if you had an optimistic view on what this could look like, it was about looking at a pie chart of his outcomes and just having the negative plays shrink. It's not like he needs to make great, explosive, fantastic plays all the time. It's more about raising the baseline. And I do think that, again, over the last couple games, minus the last 2 minutes against the Broncos, we have seen that start to trend in the right direction.
How likely is it that after, let's say 3 years, things do start to click? If you had to put money down on it now, is this an anomaly, or is this something that truly you think that they will build upon and he will build upon?
It's a great question. It's hard to say because circumstances are always so different. I also think you can throw out the first year, and I don't even think it counts.
Good point.
So let's say it's 2 years. We've seen examples of other guys where it really does click into place like that. Like Jalen Hurts is a very good example. He was a fine player in his second year where they built this run-heavy offense around him. He was really efficient in that way, but they were limited. And he thought, okay, what is the end point on this? And I think the Eagles had doubts about that. When you look at the way that they had stockpiled resources, they had 2 first-round picks in last year's draft. They set themselves up to say, all right, if this doesn't work out, we could potentially pivot. And then it clicks in for him in year 3. Look at what's happening with Tua in Miami. He looks like a completely different player because of the help and the circumstances around him. So I don't think we're so deep into this that it can't happen and it can't change course. I just think that he had further to go than even some of those guys did when you look at some of the underlying numbers. But again, if this is the trajectory that he's now on, then you start to get a little bit more encouraged.
So I know you just said this. You don't want to make any grand proclamations.
You're going to make me do it anyway. So
I'm gonna make it like at least. So let's just say that he does continue to grow. Who knows how much, but we continue to see this progress along the way, and let's work this out where the Carolina Panthers continue to suck, and the Bears end up with the number 1 pick. Now what?
He has to be undeniably a star level potential player for you to pass that up. I don't think that's crazy to say. These two guys that are coming out, this is not the 2022, or excuse me, this is not this year's rookie class. This is not where you had to kind of squint and say, all right, who's the best guy? You know, Bryce Young has obvious size concerns. CJ Stroud comes from Ohio State. There were a lot of questions about what he would look like in muddier pockets and just in worse circumstances. Same questions Justin Fields had. And Anthony Richardson was a Rorschach test. I mean, you look at what he was in college, we've never seen somebody with that sort of profile go in the top 5, even if I think Stroud and Richardson have looked very good in stretches over the first 4 games. Well, Caleb Williams and Drake May are different tiers of prospect. They are different sort of players. So if you have a chance to get one of those guys, passing that up and passing up the rookie quarterback window that comes with it, you have to have a guy that is undeniably somebody that lifts everything else around him. So I think if that ends up happening, personally, I think the decision is made for them. The bigger question is, what if the Panthers have the 4th pick and you have the 9th pick? Then what do you do? That to me is where things get really interesting. But if they're in a position to cleanly draft one of those guys, I think that he would have to be head and shoulders so much better than we've even seen over the last couple of weeks, over the rest of the season, to preclude you from drafting one of those players.
I think you're on mute.
I got allergies, and so I've been sniffling and sneezing and trying to hide it from people, but I also want you to hear what I got to say. Dan, I was asking, what stood out on the media mashup? Any particular thing you want to say?
Yeah, the one thing that stood out to me was how, and I can't remember which show this was that was talking about it, but I think it was one of the ones on the Score, where it was just like, well, that's it. Olin says we've got a good offensive line. That's it.
Yeah.
No more excuses for Justin. Okay, good. They had a good game. They had a nice game. To say that's that? I mean, come on. Braxton was struggling when he got hurt. Assuming he's going to be back healthy and hopefully he'll turn it around. Larry Borum's not that good. No one's going to tell me Larry Borum's a starting left tackle in this league. All right? Cody Whitehair's on his last leg. And at center, he's going to give me a fucking heart attack with his high snaps. So Tevin's coming back, but Tevin's hurt a lot. Nate Davis finally had a good game. That's great. He's been out the whole summer. I know someone was dying. I don't want to make light of that. I think it was his mother.
Yes.
But that was his first moment as a Bear where we're like, oh, okay, he's doing okay. And then at right tackle, the rookie had his best game. But I mean, to say that, well, that's it. They're good. I mean, if Justin's constantly under the microscope, well, we got to figure out if he's any good. Is this a fluke? Is it an aberration? Well, couldn't that have been an aberration for the offensive line to have a good game as well?
Yeah, but against that defensive line, you're right. It could have been, but man, I just feel like these guys have had valid excuses for not playing well, or in some cases not playing, like Davis and Tevin Jenkins. Those guys didn't play because they had serious issues, and so I think that Ryan Poles has built a better than average. I would put them outside of the top 10, but somewhere between 13 and 16. If they all play to their potential. Larry Borum at the left tackle position, I really do believe he can be a serviceable left tackle. And when you look at left tackles throughout the National Football League, there aren't a lot of good ones, which is why when I say Larry Borum could be the 15th best left tackle, that's not a great compliment, but it is the 15th. That means there's a lot worse guys than him. And
well, hopefully Braxton will be back sooner than later, though.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, that's who I meant, Braxton Jones. I said Larry Borum. And then Tevin Jenkins at left guard. I think we all agree that if this guy stays healthy, he is a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber left guard. At center, we need to find a center. And Ryan Poles basically told Greg Gabriel, I'm not going to bring in a center this year because I've got changes at the guard position, and to bring in a rookie center, is too much. I need that veteran leadership that Cody Whitehair, and I'm paraphrasing what was shared there. But I can, you can't fix everything. Like who was it just now on chat? Somebody said, Casey said, didn't we all agree that this was a total rebuild, and new management, coaches, etc., that it would need at least 2 years? Yeah, he's absolutely right, and that's what Ryan Poles has been telling us. So you couldn't get a center and a right tackle. It looks like this right tackle kid is going to be one of the best in the league, like top 5 best in the league. There's no doubt about it. And the right guard is one of the best run blocking guards, and has been for years now. And now he's getting settled in. He's always going to be a slight liability in the pass rush, I think. But as a run blocker, he's one of the best in the league. So this offensive line, I do agree with what you said, though. I think that Olin complimented this offensive line a little too much. There's still problems there.
Well, even if Olin thought they were great that night against Washington, that doesn't mean it's as sold. Like, well, that's it. They're going to be great every week the rest of the way. If we can constantly have to put Justin under that scrutiny, is he going to be good? He better be good. He better be continuing the same path, or we're going to have to move on from him. So if we're going to do that to Fields, then we have to keep the offensive line under evaluation as well. And I think I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. Someone else was calling for the mullet to be at center. Please, we cannot have Whitehair throwing those high snaps. Justin saved his ass at least twice. Yeah. If that had been Nathan Peterman, I don't think that that ball goes over his head 1 or 2 times. And man, he did this his first run. Mm-hmm. He did this before. I've been saying that, like, no, we don't want Whitehair at center. That shows you that motherfucker snaps high all the time. He can't stop it.
Yeah.
I don't know why we pretend it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I, for instance, have given him a lot of leeway. He's probably one of the worst snappers in that center position in the NFL. There's no doubt about it. But he did block fairly well. In terms of run blocking, I think that was his best performance of the season. But he played much better at the center position from pass and run blocking than he did at left guard. So that's a good thing. But yeah, the snaps could be a huge issue, and especially as the weather gets, things get wetter out there. Let's face it, Cody Whitehair, this is your last season, so please don't embarrass yourself.
No, and don't give him a chance to do it. If Tevin's going to start, I don't know if they're going to rotate Tevin with Carter like they were against Washington, but maybe Tevin starts at left guard. So if Tevin is starting on Sunday, then put Feeney, or if Lucas Patrick is back, I don't know. I think he may have to miss because of the concussion protocol. Then I would start Feeney. I'm sorry, Whitehair, you're a good backup. We can put you in a pinch. Our center's out in concussion protocol. Go ahead and go in. But, man, he's got to be your spare tire. Yeah. What do they call those spare tires that aren't the same size? Like the donut tire, whatever the fuck. That's what he is. He's that tire that's going to get you to the fucking service station.
Yeah.
That's it.
A lot of people agreeing with you in the chat room. BG147 said, I tend to agree with Dan. Use some caution when lauding the offensive line. I agree. I mean, it's still a work in progress. My hope, though, is that, the game against Washington was a promise that they are going to start to play better as they get more healed, as the starting lineup starts to get in place and they start to build some cohesion. It's possible that this offensive line could be one of the better ones in the National Football League by the end of the season. And it's part of the rebuild.
Do you think it's an unfair or unreasonable amount of pressure that we put on Justin to say, you better continue this pace? Mm-hmm. 8 touchdowns and 1 pick in 2 weeks. We want him to continue that pace the rest of the year. That's an unrealistic expectation as far as I'm concerned. Even if he ends up being the guy that we want to keep and not draft to forego those other 2 kids in college. I mean, he can't throw 4 picks every week. I mean, 4 touchdowns every week. It's just not going to happen.
You're absolutely right.
It's not fair for them to say that that's the measuring stick along the way. I forget who was saying that. I think it was toward the end, maybe it was Waddle and Sylvie there. Somebody, they were talking about drafting the kid or not drafting the kid.
Yeah, Bernstein and Holmes.
Okay.
Bernstein Holmes, yeah.
All right. Well, you can't expect, like, Justin can't throw 4 touchdowns a week. So, but I guess what we're hoping for is consistent yardage. If you get 250, 300 yards a game and not those like 120 in the fourth quarter kind of games, and your touchdown interception ratio is still good, and the Bears can start winning, maybe that's how we measure it. But he can't throw 4 touchdowns a game. It's not fair to him to suggest that's what he has to do to keep his job.
You're absolutely right. I posted this on X or Twitter, or whatever the fuck it's called. Justin Fields needs to average 225 yards passing for the rest of the season in order to surpass Eric Kramer, who had, you probably remember this better, I think it was 3,800 yards and some change, is the Bears franchise record for most passing yards for a quarterback in the season. So he needs 225 yards. That's what I would like to see. I'd like to see him average 225 plus yards, 250 yards, and a couple of touchdowns, 1 or 2 touchdowns.
I want him to break Kramer's touchdown record too.
Yes, absolutely.
The 29 touchdowns in 1995. Justin, I want to see him get 30, even if it's just 30. Just break that record.
And protecting the ball, that's very, very important. He's had fumble problems, and right. And you can't do that as the quarterback of your team. No player should be fumbling the ball. And I was looking back at some of the highlights from the Bears and Vikings games and Justin Fields' performances against the Vikings. That game last year, was it last year? Yeah, where
Smith Morset.
Yeah. Jesus. Well, right before that, Justin fumbled the ball, but fortunately, one of the offensive linemen fell on it, and so we get a reprieve, and then that fucking receiver doesn't go out of bounds. That asshole. Of course, we probably wouldn't have gotten DJ Moore. So maybe if you believe in a higher power, maybe that's his way of giving us a break.
I hope so.
Anything else you want to share before we bring the Tooch in?
I guess there had to be more meat on the bone on that. That's what stood out to me was of course, the Justin talk and the offensive line talk. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. It's only week 6, but if he stays healthy and, I would tell him it's still your job to lose. You don't feel like you have to throw 3 or 4 picks or we're going to move on from you.
Yeah, and I want to get Tooch's opinion on
touchdowns. I keep saying picks.
The best case scenario is definitely that Justin Fields proves that he's a franchise quarterback. If he does average 3-4 touchdown passes for the remaining of the season, then we've got our quarterback. It's over with. Let's fix the trenches. Let's get another complimentary wide receiver for DJ
defensive
Moore.
End.
And let's get a premier pass rushing guy like a Bosa or some of these other guys that instill fucking holy terror in quarterbacks. We desperately need one of those for the Chicago Bears organization.
We haven't had one since Richard Dent.
Exactly.
we haven't had one since Richard Dent.
Yes, we weren't named the monsters of the Midway because we were scaring little kids. We were scaring quarterbacks. We need a fucking pass rusher who does that. That's my number one priority. As much as I would love to have Marvin Harrison, because that would be outstanding. The guy is fucking special. There's no doubt about it. But if you're telling me that maybe Jared Verse, the kid from Florida State, could be that pass rusher, I might just bypass Harrison and go for the pass rusher. That's how important that is to winning. All right.
Definitely need someone, even if it's with free agency, somebody.
Yes.
We thought Khalil Mack was that guy, and he wasn't. We thought Julius Peppers was that guy, and he wasn't.
Yep.
So the last guy that was Dent.
Yep. And like
Robert Quinn for 1 year. Robert Quinn.
For 1 year, 18.5 sacks, right?
Yeah.
The guy from Washington who was playing right end, Now I'm drawing a blank on his name. Larry Borum actually did a pretty good job on him, and he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Do you want to sign a guy to a $20+ million a year contract who Larry Borum had a good game against? I mean, Larry, I love you, but Chase Young, thank you, Tooch. Tooch knows it all. Let's bring him in here. His name is Johnny Santucci. We know him and love him by the name The Tooch. He is my friend. He is.
I'm on Dan's body. Oh, I was on my head. My head was on Dan's body for a second there.
It happens now, based on your filmmaking history. I thought that was appropriate.
That did sound a little randy there, huh? My head was on Dan's bottom.
It did. Yeah, it did. There you go. That's better. That looks better. Dan, what were you doing there when you took this picture? Because that's a really nice picture of you.
Yeah, you look really happy.
Maybe I was getting my dick sucked.
You haven't updated us on your sex life, and I'm actually getting text messages asking, "Hey, what the fuck is going on with that? Isn't he getting any?"
I haven't been lately, but that's okay. I've got maybe it's been going well in the other aspect, someone liking me, that kind of stuff, So.
I like that. That. Dan's getting wrong. What about you, Tooch? You been getting any?
I told you I'm wearing that little heart monitor because I've had the tachycardia for a little bit, and high blood pressure. Mm-hmm. And before I have sex, I push this little button before the wife and I, get down.
Yeah.
So I push those buttons, then I have to write in the journal, had intercourse with the wife. So the doctor will know what my heart rate's doing. Yeah, I pushed that little button last night, Aldo.
I love it.
For some reason, when he was saying that, I started I think it was Kool and the Gang that had that song, Get Down on It.
That's what I started thinking.
Yeah, when he was talking about pressing that button and fucking, it made me think Get Down on It.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, Tooch, you have prepared for us a Bear State of Affairs.
Yeah. They're different. Bear State Affairs different after a win, Aldo.
I am so
As
anxious.
You can imagine.
I don't remember a Bear State of Affairs after a victory. Have you done any after a victory? This is the first.
It's been like a year. I don't know. I don't remember. We have to go back when I started doing it. I don't remember.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, because the 14-game losing streak, and that was all off season. I did like 36 of them in the off season. It's probably my first one after a victory. I think
it is, and this should be very, very special. Again, this is Johnny Santucci, pre-recorded Bears State of Affairs. Anytime.
No, he's on mute.
How can it be on mute? This is pre-recorded.
Something's gone awry.
John, do you know what happened?
I must have been on mute recording it. That's hilarious.
Can you go impromptu now? Do you have your sheet?
I sure do.
All right, let's go.
All right, hold on. Go ahead.
That's hilarious.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I was giving the girls a bath and stuff. I'm like, stay in the bathroom. I'm going to record for 5 minutes.
You're the busiest guy in Iowa. There's no doubt about it. Farmers have nothing on you.
Yep.
Here it goes.
All right, Bears State of Affairs 20.
No, you're on mute again.
You're muted.
Take three. It is 1st and 20 after 2 false starts.
Yeah, I'm like the Bears offensive line. A couple false starts there. All right, Bears State of Affairs 2023 NFL season week 6. What's happening, Barflies? Well, the Bears played their 5th game of the season on the road in D.C. Thursday night versus the Commanders, and they won. Yeah, the Bears doubled up the Commanders 40-20. Justin Fields threw for 4 touchdowns, and the team looked dominant. For the first time in quite a long time, the Bears were able to pressure the quarterback, and the defense gave up less than 25 points. Yes, Fields' jerseys were pulled from the fire, half burnt, as Bears fans returned to sanity for 1 week. The paper bags were put away, and Justin Fields was no longer a bust after putting together back-to-back games of star-quality quarterback play. And I wasn't sad at all to lose my bet on the Commanders. While I'm not very fond of Matt Eberflus and his staff, I love the players who put on a Bears uniform. And I love the fans like Dan Aguirre who would never think of burning a Bears jersey. For the record, in my own defense, the Bears were 0-3-1 against the spread before beating the Commanders. However, I am upset at myself for not recognizing the similarities in the Commanders game to last year's game versus the Patriots in Foxborough. Remember? Last season, everyone was saying that Belichick and company would destroy the Bears. What happened? Well, the Bears went into New England and blew out Mac Jones and the Patriots 33-14 in Week 7. It was right after that win last year when the 14-game losing streak started. But the same thing happened Thursday night as the Bears blew out the Commanders. We just have to hope there isn't another losing streak still to come. But people are happy because the Bears aren't going winless. And no matter how bad we are the rest of the year, we still won't be worse than the winless 2008 Detroit Lions. Right, Don Burr? Look, getting out of town away from all the distractions turned out to be just the tonic for the Bears to get back on track. And oh boy, did the Bears have their share of distractions in this young season. There was the Allen Williams scandal, the Chase Claypool distraction, the long losing streak, the rumors of the head coach and possibly the GM getting canned during the season, the break-in and theft of Bears team equipment at Soldier Field, the Justin Fields "I've just got to be me" distraction, the mounting injuries, the death of Bears great Dick Butkus, and on and on. So many distractions piled on top of distractions, piled on top of rumors, and piled on top of scandal. Pounding Riverboat Ron, the coach formerly known as Chico, was all there was left for this young Bears team to do in D.C. And while grizzled Bears fans like the barkeeper and myself understand that we might just be at the bottom of that Bears cycle, where the embattled coach on the hot seat keeps his job for 1 more week by beating up on a bad team. Most fans may be shocked by another losing streak, however. The grizzled Bears fan knows that, but for a few plays versus the Buccaneers and Broncos, this team could very well be 3-2 rather than 1-4. I'm sure Bears fan Dan would agree. And what's so disappointing about this season? It's disappointing that the Bears took this long to get ready for a season that began 5 weeks ago. So for the time being, let's all collectively, as Bears fans, enjoy and savor this victory. Let's celebrate the monster day DJ Moore had. 8 catches, 230 yards receiving, and 3 touchdowns. Good enough for the second highest total in Bears history. Let's celebrate that for a moment Justin Fields led the league in passing touchdowns. Let's be happy for Justin Fields because he balled out. He knows his NFL future and the value of any future contract are at stake. He has to ball out. The Bears need to know if Justin Fields can be the man. As for the Chase Claypool situation, let's sum it up succinctly. I was right last week when I said that Claypool wouldn't be back in a Bears uniform. Late last week, the Bears traded Claypool to the Miami Dolphins for what amounted to peanuts. A swap of draft picks in the 6th and 7th rounds of the 2025 NFL draft. We'll all forget about this by 2025. That's it. That's all the Bears could ultimately salvage from what will likely go down as one of the biggest blunders in Bears mismanagement history. Thank goodness Ryan Poles was able to acquire DJ Moore from the Panthers. Otherwise, the Bears GM may have already been run out of town. The difference between Moore and Claypool is like night and day, and the Bears will need that growing connection between Fields and Moore next Sunday when the similarly struggling 1-4 Vikings come to town. The Bears may be catching a break, too, as it looks like the Vikings star wide receiver Justin Jefferson will miss Sunday's game with a hamstring injury. As it stands, however, the Bears have a growing list of injuries themselves that they will need to overcome, and that is Bears State of Affairs.
Oh, I like that, Tooch. I like that. Yeah. You're as good when we're winning as when we're losing. You're consistent.
you gotta be with the team when we're winning.
Absolutely.
So
let's talk a little bit more about this Claypool thing. But the question that I have for both of you guys, start with you first, Tooch. Do you think this is a stain on Ryan Poles, or do you think, hey, shit happens? Not every general manager hits, 1,000.
I think yes and no, because by all accounts, the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of were, they were greasing him like, hey, the Packers, they're offered up a second. It's kind of like a rookie GM mistake. Whereas if I were a savvy GM, maybe that had experience with dealing with making acquisitions like this, I might have thought to myself, man, with the second round pick, I could probably draft a guy as good as or better than Claypool and control him for 4 to 5 years, on a rookie contract. So, I mean, that's the way you had to look at it. And Poles, he was desperate, and desperation, when someone's desperate, they don't always make the best decisions. So exactly. I think we can forgive him a little bit, but I mean, it's definitely a stain. We can forgive the rookie GM mistake. It's just that's why we shouldn't hire guys learning on the job, like you and I always say, Aldo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because everyone says that Poles planned the tank. Well, if you're planning the tank, then why would you make that trade, right? I mean, I think that they started the tank on purpose in the last 5-6 games because they realized, holy shit, we're not going to win another game. Let's make sure we don't win another game. Dan, what do you think about this Chase Claypool trade? He's gone now. He's a member of the Miami Dolphins. He's not going to play for the Dolphins for, they say, several weeks until he learns the playbook. With the Bears, they threw him right in, and we were there at his first game. But aside from all that, what do you think about this trade, and is it a stain on Ryan Poles?
It's unfortunate that it goes down as a really bad trade. It's still not as bad as number one for Rick Meyer in 1997, who never even threw a single touchdown as a Chicago Bear. But Chase Claypool never won a game as a Chicago Bear, not one. And he only caught one touchdown. That was against Tampa in week 2. In terms of the general manager, I like the fact that he was aggressive and made the pick. And at the time, I was very happy with that trade. So I can't lie to you now and just say, oh, he deserves to be stoned to death, because what a stupid trade. I think at the time, the prevailing thought was, hey, he's an ascending player. He's young. Good move.
So for me, I didn't like the trade from the beginning. I was like, not worth a second round pick.
Well, be that as it may.
I know, Danny.
I like the fact that he took a swing, that he was aggressive. It didn't work out. I don't think he should be fired for it. Now, if he stacks up bad trades and bad acquisitions and we can keep, like there's a laundry list of stuff, then, you can look back at that and see, all this started when the Claypool trade, then you got just a litany of bad moves. But for right now, I think, that one's a swing and a miss, but I don't think he should be condemned for it. At least he was trying to make us better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Dan. I was a proponent of the trade because I like Chase Claypool when he played at Notre Dame. I thought that he should have been drafted ahead of Cole Kmet. And, saw him down at the Senior Bowl. He was impressive. Big body, runs a 4.4 something. He's got all the tools. I didn't know he was going to be a head case, and should have known better that, the Steelers, that's what they do with their head case wide receivers. They get rid of them. So that should have been warning enough. but not just for me, but for Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham, and
Yeah,
so
I hate that I'm right, Aldo.
yeah.
I mean, I would have liked it to work out, but
me too, man.
I
I really had high hopes for him, but I don't mind. Like Dan says, I don't mind Poles taking a shot, swinging for the fences, giving Justin Fields the weapon that he needed. We thought that he needed, so from that standpoint, it doesn't bug me that much. And then, I listed who were the 32nd picks for 10 years from 2020 back 10 years just to see, and there were more misses than hits. So who knows what would have happened? And Joey Porter was the guy the Steelers drafted.
Yeah.
He appears to be that he's going to be a good cornerback, but there's no guarantee yet that he's going to be a very good cornerback or a great quarterback. So we'll see. Danny Shimon should be joining us here in about 10 minutes. Tooch, what else is on your mind regarding this Bears team? Maybe something that you touched on with Bears State of Affairs that you want to elaborate on?
I'm sure Danny will agree with me that the Bears could be 3-2 if not for a few mistakes. We had a chance during the Buccaneers game, down 17-20 in the latter half of the game. And if we would have driven down, maybe gotten a field goal range and tied it, maybe we could have won the game on another possession or an overtime. And then against the Broncos, you got to agree, Danny, we let one slip away there because we were pounding them just like we were pounding the Commanders.
28-7 lead.
Yeah, they let that one
late
get
in
away.
the third quarter.
Yeah, it's a shame, and I really wanted to just point out like how different would the narrative be this season if the Bears were 3-2, Aldo? Right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? There wouldn't be all this talk of people getting fired and the Chase Claypool thing probably wouldn't have had the large splash or ripple in the pool as it does right now.
Well, let me give you some optimism. Please. 2 of these 4 losses are against the AFC. So, I mean, a loss is a loss in some regards, but in terms of potential playoff opportunities later, the more NFC wins you get, the better.
Yeah.
The first, you need to win your division. But if you don't win your division, your next thing is either head-to-head or conference play. So therefore, I mean, if you had to lose 2 games, I mean, I was at the Denver game. I wish we'd have won. But if you had to lose 2 games against the AFC, not so bad. I mean, let's go ahead and beat Minnesota this week, though. Get out of the cellar. Yeah. And then you got another game. Right. You got a division win and another conference win that way. So, and then you take care of Oakland or Vegas, whatever, and then suddenly, you're almost back to 500 with some conference wins. So
Justin Jefferson out really gives the Bears a good chance of taking the victory.
Well, we can't look at that and play lightly. I think that Jefferson, even if he does play, even if he has a tender hamstring, is still dangerous. I think we have to attack them. Well, we have to attack them. If he's in there or if he's not, we can't play that fucking soft shell zone that they just don't excel at. You have to get pressure on Kirk Cousins and put his ass on the ground. And I think the Bears can win that if they play that style of defense. And maybe we get Jalen Johnson back. Maybe we get Kyler Gordon back, even if he has a club on his hand. Maybe we get our secondary back. Maybe Eddie Jackson returns.
Yeah,
I didn't know they had put him on injured reserve, guys. Shit, I'm sorry. I'm not a Minnesota Vikings fan. I apologize.
If the Bears did happen to win those 2 games, we're 3-2, we'd be in second place, in this division. And there wouldn't be a whole hell of a lot of Caleb Williams talk.
Well, my point of going back to the receiver, not to be overly defensive about being wrong on Jefferson. My point was, if he played or if he didn't play, you can't let up. You've got to be aggressive and play that style of defense to get pressure on Cousins. So you can't, if he's not there, I almost want him to be there, because again, he is dangerous, but you don't want to let up and think, oh, their best player is gone. And then the other receiver, what's his name? Addison.
Yes.
Yep.
Then he lights you up, so you don't want that to happen. You need them to stay aggressive.
One thing about Justin Jefferson and IR, The Tom Pelissero from NFL Network reported that the Vikings are planning on putting him on injured reserve. There's no word yet. I watched Kevin O'Connell's press conference yesterday, and he said, we're going outside for a second and third opinion. We will study the MRIs and then make a decision later in the week. Now, Pelissero is usually more right than wrong. I mean, 90%, 95% of the time, he's right. So he probably has a good source over in, where is it that their Vikings headquarters,
Minneapolis?
No, it's up to Mankato.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. And so he's probably got a good source there. So Jefferson, I think, is going to go on IR, but he's still not officially on IR.
And another thing that would play into that too, they would probably be like, "Ooh, we don't want him playing on that grass down there."
Yeah.
You know, so that maybe he is going to be out then. I knew going into it, I didn't think I saw him on IR yet, but
no,
okay. But again, I'm not a Vikings fan, so I'm not sitting around watching the Vikings transactions either.
You don't watch Good Morning Football with the
Absolutely not. I don't watch any of these shows that are just going to force Dallas Cowboys talk down my fucking throat.
There is good news. Did you talk about Jalen Johnson being back?
I hope so. I was saying hopefully he and Kyler Gordon and Eddie Jackson could all return.
That would be outstanding. Can you imagine? And one of the silver linings of the Washington game was the play of Marcus Stroman in that slot position. So we don't have to rush Kyler Gordon back to play that slot position. And we could even consider moving Kyler Gordon back to the outside, leaving Stroman in that slot position, and giving Tyreek Stevenson some snaps, but not so many snaps, because he does tend to play overly aggressive, which is what his scouting report said. And so we have to, teach the kid, hey, you can't, fucking knock the helmet off of a receiver when he's out of bounds, because he tends to get a lot of these types of penalties. So, again, just like when we were talking about with the offensive line, there's some positive news going on with the defensive backfield. And if the defensive backfield is playing well, it helps the defensive line. And if the defensive line is playing well, it helps the defensive backfield. I just hope that Eberflus continues to blitz and help those defensive linemen. And I actually looked at some tape of Kirk Cousins to see how he handles the blitz. The last 2 years, he's actually gotten pretty good at it. But prior to that, you talk about panic. When Kirk Cousins sensed that a blitz was coming, he would throw the ball to whatever purple he saw in the arena, including throwing it in the stands and getting a intentional grounding penalty. He really can get rattled with these blitzes. So I hope that the Bears come up with some exotic blitzes, trick him, and he starts to panic and throw the ball away.
Yeah, but if you don't, he'll go 16 for 16 in the first quarter if you don't get any pressure on him. We can give all the vitriol we want toward Kirk Cousins because he's not this or not that. But at the same time, it would be our wet dream to have our quarterback have his statistics that he has every season.
Yep.
But if you don't pressure him, he'll be 16 of 16 for 150 yards in the first quarter. You got to put pressure on him. Like you said, he does. I mean, I guess any quarterback to a certain degree, if you get pressure on him, that's how you win. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect in the secondary, because it seem like Stroman, he left the game, right? And then 32, the 5th round pick, he left the game too. So we got to see our injury report, how this is going to go on Wednesday.
Yeah, tomorrow's injury report is going to be very, very interesting. Hopefully all of those guys that got nicked up or were injured late in the game are all practicing tomorrow, because if not,
they've had extra time.
Yeah. If not, the advantage that we get of Jefferson not playing, we could lose if we still got a banged up defensive backfield. But I feel really, really good about our chances to finally, I think we're 5-1 in the last 6 games against the Vikings, and it's time for a win. Joe's got a question. What are your thoughts regarding the media saying Fields struggles against zone and teams will be going after him with zone defenses? There is some truth to that, Joe, that he does have, it's no secret that sometimes Justin has a problem throwing a receiver open or anticipating where the receiver is going to be, leading that receiver. I mean, even in the very first play of the Washington game, he did not anticipate where Darnell Mooney was going, and there was that missed pass. It's something that we've seen with Mooney a number of times. I do think, though, that Justin is getting better. Justin is that classic young quarterback that comes into the NFL and he's forced into action way too early. He would have benefited from carrying the clipboard. What we're doing with Tyson Bagent right now is what we should have done with Justin Fields, even if he was drafted 10th or 11th overall. A lot of these quarterbacks that come out of the NFL, we think that because we're adapting more of the college offenses that they can play right away. It's not true. It's not true, especially when I've been watching a lot of college football in the last 2 or 3 years. It really is like flag football, right? Right, Tooch? I mean, guys are wide open. The quarterback has 10 seconds to throw the ball. That's not NFL football. And so it's hard to evaluate guys that are moving from that kind of success that they had in college football when they got 10 seconds to throw and then say they're going to play well in the NFL. That's
exactly what people are saying about Caleb Williams. He's running around back there. He's got 6 to 8 seconds. Guys are running free. They're so wide open. You're like, oh, well, Lincoln Riley's he's scheming all these guys open. I mean, it's hard to cover a guy for 8 seconds.
I also want to point out that there was 1 or 2 instances, in my opinion, I can't say this as a fact, but it seemed that Mooney was jogging a couple of times and not running full speed on some of those throws from Justin.
Yeah, I think it was the second pass, the one in the end zone that Justin missed him. He got up gingerly and was limping. Yeah, so that's another guy that we want to see on tomorrow's injury report. Hopefully he practices.
Well, I meant in his route. There was a couple of times it looked like he was running half speed in his route.
Oh, okay.
Early in the game where it was just like, man, okay, maybe that's Fields' fault, but it looks like he's not running hard. I mean, I don't want to say that because that's a damning accusation, I guess. But there was 1 or 2 times where it looked like that Mooney wasn't running really hard on his route.
Well, there's only one guy that would know. He is the senior analyst for football here at the Barroom Network. His name is Danny Shimon. Danny, how are you, my friend?
What's up, guys? Tooch.
Hi, Danny.
Aldo, what's up, guys? How are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great, man. It's so good to see you. Let me see if I can put you on camera here. I thought I had this set up well, but apparently I don't. We don't want the close-up of your face, despite the fact.
Put the pretty guys back on camera. Put me on camera.
Let's try this. Let's try this.
There it is.
But I'm missing Dan Aguirre, so let's try this. All right, and then I get another picture of Dan in there. There he is, peeking over your shoulder.
What the fuck? What about DJ Moore? How can you say he's not a number 1 receiver? That's why I'm peeking over your shoulder.
Oh, just going at it.
That's right, Danny. I have been teasing the audience with 2 things. Number 1, you do not believe or you are questioning whether DJ Moore is a number 1 wide receiver in the National Football League. And number 2, you're basically saying that if the season ended today, you would replace Ryan Poles. Which of those 2 do you want to expound on?
Well, let's go with the easy one first. First, DJ Moore. When the trade was made, my biggest thing was I thought the Bears didn't get enough for the first overall pick. The general consensus is when a team is coming up for a quarterback, and you know they're coming up for a quarterback, you just basically rob the team. Now, the first round pick this year, great. The second round pick next year, great. But I also wanted a second round pick this past draft because remember they traded that pick for Chase Claypool, so you get extra picks here. Now they threw in DJ Moore and they said we wanted him because he's quote unquote another first round pick. They used the 24th overall pick on DJ Moore out of Maryland, and what I said was DJ Moore, and everybody comes, oh, he's number 1 receiver. I'm like, listen, you can put up fantasy football stats in Carolina, albeit playing with multiple quarterbacks. That's fine, but you know what? When they are your number 1 option on a team, when you're on prime time in a big city like Chicago, like when you guys throw out there too, you do fantasy football. When you say give me the top 10 receivers, does DJ Moore come to you first up top of mind? No, you go Stephon Diggs, you go Tyreek Hill, you go Justin Jefferson, you go Chase, all these other guys, right? And you never say DJ Moore, productive, put up the stats. Guys, he had 7 touchdowns. His career high last year was 7 touchdowns. Okay. Previous years, I think it was like 3 or 4 or 5. And again, a lot of quarterback, bad play there in Carolina. So all I said was he's a talented receiver. I want to see him prove to me that he's a number 1 receiver. So what happened the first couple of weeks? Not enough touches, not enough targets. All right, that's not off to a good start. The last couple of weeks, albeit versus the 32nd and 31st ranked defenses respectively, Justin and DJ got on the same page, and now DJ Moore put up stats of a number 1 receiver. But not even Justin said in the post game last week, guys, he said, I'm surprised that they only covered him with 1 guy. If you're a top guy, if you're a number 1 option on an offense, the defense comes in and it tries to take you out of it. So they're still taking him out or covering with just 1 guy. Now I expect after these 2 games, now we should see some shell coverage or a safety over the top with help on DJ Moore. Now I want to see DJ Moore come up and make some plays when he's the focal point of the defense trying to stop him. And I'm not saying he's got to go up, put up 230 yards and 4 touchdowns or whatever he had last week. Just be that guy. Get the important scores, get the important first down. Be that productive guy. Stephon Diggs, he is the focal point of the whenever a defense is playing the Buffalo Bills. He's the guy they're trying to stop. They can't stop him. Tyreek Hill, he's the guy they're trying to stop for Miami. They can't stop him. Justin Jefferson, he's the guy they're trying to stop for Minnesota. They can't stop him. DJ Moore proved to me that you can be that guy. I'm not saying he can't be that guy. I'm just saying as of, coming into the season, he hadn't proven that to me. So that's all I said about DJ Moore. Talented receiver, and we're seeing some of his talents now on the football field. Now continue and prove to me that you are that damn guy.
All right, Tooch, go ahead, Dan. You want to reply to that?
I was just going to say, is it fair for me to surmise that you would agree with me when I say he's definitely the best receiver we've had since Brandon Marshall?
Yes.
I mean, you like him better than Allen Robinson.
Most talented natural receiver than Brandon Marshall, yes.
I was going to say, other than Brandon, look, I loved Curtis Conway. I loved Jeff Graham. Marcus Robinson had a year, 99. But I know it's only 2 games, but damn, Marty Booker had a couple of good seasons. But this guy looks like other than Marshall, the best receiver I've seen in a Bears uniform.
Right, and I thought that we see a lot of great receivers, right? But yeah, he is talented. I'm not denying his talent. I'm not saying he's a playmaker out there. But I want to see when the defense is now honing in on him to try and stop him. Can he still make those plays? Again, I'm not expecting 230 yards. I'm not expecting 4 touchdowns. I'm just saying, can he prove to me that he's that go-to guy that Justin needs? And he will. Maybe he will. If he does, great. Number 1 receiver, no problem about it. But when you guys, when the trade was made, everyone said now they have a number 1 receiver. I'm like, whoa. Let's not just throw the title of number 1 receiver or elite player. Let's let them prove it to us. Let them see him. 7 touchdowns in a season was his career high last year, guys. Okay, he's never hit double digits. Now he's on a pace now to hit double digits this year. So let's see if he gets there. If he does that, again, with the focal point of defenses now honing in on him, right? Now we can say, all right, yeah, you guys are right. He's a number 1 receiver. But all I said was just prove it to me. I didn't say he sucks. I didn't say he's a bust or he's not a talented receiver. I just said, prove it to me.
Well, and before I ask Tooch to share his opinion, I want to show a graphic of the quarterbacks that DJ Moore has played with Carolina. In 2018, it was Caine Mutiny, who was still playing well at a high level, but then things started to deteriorate for Cam. And in 2019, the number 1 quarterback was Kyle Allen. In 2020, it was Teddy Bridgewater. In 2021, it was Sam Darnold. In 2022, it was Baker Mayfield. And of course, we don't care about 2023. But isn't that a big part of why DJ Moore did not have the types of numbers that the Tyreek Hills, Justin Jeffersons, AJ Browns, Devontae Adams have had? Plus, he played a big part of his career with Carolina Panthers with Christian McCaffrey, who demanded the ball because he is clearly one of the top 3 players in the entire National Football League, at least from an offensive standpoint.
Well, again, although you're making the point I made earlier, I'm like, I know he played with shoddy quarterback play. I'm not taking that away from him. And you put up yards and you put up catches. But again, the touchdown production wasn't there up until this past season where we had 7 touchdowns, or last season where we had 7 touchdowns. So again, all I'm saying is prove it to me. I don't just throw labels out there. I like to see guys do it and prove it to me week in and week out, especially when now you are, those Carolina teams, a lot of them weren't really competitive. And the couple of times there is out there, I think that, he made plays, but again, being that guy, being that number one guy all the time and being reliable, being that, being called the number one receiver, it's different. It's a different breed. Like some of these guys that we're scrolling here, like Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, these guys are always, even if they're covered, they're open. You throw the ball to them, right? Like that's the thing. Like I saw Aaron Rodgers interview today and talking about, last night with the Raiders and Devontae Adams. It's like, even if he's covered, you throw the ball to him because he's going to make a play. That's what I want to see DJ Moore just prove to me. That's all I'm saying is prove to me you're a number one receiver. That's the only thing I said when the trade was made. Now, if he continues on this pace that he's having these last two weeks, and I'm going to admit it's a nice trend, it's upward trend, then you know what? And then now he's being the focal point of defenses and he's still putting up numbers. Now you say, you know what? DJ Moore is a number one receiver. So I never said he wasn't. I just said prove it to me.
Tooch?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle here. Danny has a higher standard. That's like totally understandable because you look at guys like he just mentioned Devontae Adams, who he played with Aaron Rodgers for a long time, goes to the Raiders and plays with Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's still awesome. I mean, look at the game last night. I mean, the dude gets open, he makes some moves in the open field to get extra yards. Devontae Adams is a guy that can do it no matter who the quarterback is, and that's what Danny's talking about. And with DJ Moore, you can definitely see like now he's got a little better quarterback to play with. I know Justin Fields has had his struggles, but he's probably better than that list of Carolina quarterbacks that Aldo threw up there. And to be fair, Aldo mentioned that like Christian McCaffrey got the lion's share of touches in that Carolina offense. But with DJ Moore, you're getting a player that's, to me, he's almost the same player as Stephon Diggs, the guy that preceded him at Maryland. Roughly the same size, coached by the same coaches, similar game in the NFL as Stephon Diggs. So if DJ Moore does, elevate his game this season, then I think you probably could take him up
the connection 10. Of the repertoire that, or the rapport, I should say, that Justin Fields and DJ now have developed the last couple of weeks. Again, I understand it's the 31st and 32nd ranked defenses, but you don't pick them. You play who they put out there on the field, and they put those numbers out there, and again, that just got to continue. I just want to see that continue on. And I think I saw a question in the chat, in terms of how many yards and touchdowns I expect. Well, for a number one receiver, I expect at least 1,000 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. I need double-digit touchdowns. I need 1,000 yards receiving. If you're to be considered a number one receiver year in, year out.
Bruce Ollie Walter Jordan asked, Danny, how many number one receivers are there in the NFL right now? I actually listed 10 of them, and they're crawling across the banner right now. So I'd like you to answer his question and also respond to my list. It's, you can move a guy here up or down a notch, but it's basically, I think Tyreek Hill is the number one receiver. Jefferson is second. A.J. Brown is number 3. The Raiders, Devontae Adams is number 4. Cooper Kupp is 5. And Cooper Kupp could easily be number 1. Jamar Chase is at 6. Diggs at 7. I got DJ Moore ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown and CeeDee Lamb. Your thoughts on what it takes to be a number one receiver and that list?
And Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Moore and I think CeeDee Lamb are all kind of in that same territory where I think they have the potential to develop into a number one receiver. I mean, we're seeing these guys, put up, stats here and there, but they're not that's consistently go-to guys right on their offense. But Amon-Ra St. Brown's got that dog mentality, which I love, and DJ's got the same thing. I love the way DJ Moore plays the game. I love his physicality. I love his yards after the catch. That's where DJ Moore excels at, guys. It's his ability to be able to make the catch and then just accelerate from the defender. And I think, again, potential is there to be a number one receiver. I just don't like throwing those titles out there without seeing it, consistently and seeing it done against, when you're the focal point of opposing defenses. So, he's on an upward trend right now. He's right now, let's just put it this way. DJ Moore is the least of this team's problems right now.
Dan Aguirre, you got any more questions or thoughts on this topic before we move on to the topic of Ryan Poles?
I know it's only been a couple of games, but he passes the eye test for me. I think DJ Moore is the best receiver the Bears have had. I've said this numerous times, but since Brandon Marshall, and both of those gentlemen are probably the best receivers they've had in the 2000s, without question. I mean, when I think great wide receivers in my lifetime for the Bears, I'm not saying they were Jerry Rice or Randy Moss or T.O., the great receivers of my lifetime, but I'm going to say off the top of my head, it's Brandon and DJ Moore and maybe Willie Galton McKinnon and Conway. I mean, and Jeff Graham for 2 years.
This is where receivers come to die, right? According to Musa Muhammad. So, I mean, it's not like we had a long history of great receivers here. So, but that's the thing is like once the trade was made, my only thing, and again, I'll stress it again, DJ Moore is the least of the problems of this team right now, right? When the trade was made, they just said number one receiver, let's prove it, guys. Let's not just throw titles out there and say, because he put up fantasy stats over in Carolina. Let's see what he does here when he's the guy, he's the focal point. And so, like I said, last couple games, upward trend is looking good. Continue that now going forward, and I'll have no problem calling him a number one receiver.
I think your point that you're making toward DJ Moore is the same thing I would have said about Allen Robinson. I think A-Rob was just called number one and didn't deserve that, but I think DJ Moore is significantly better. But I'll digress.
This is a team that's so starved for wide receivers that it looks like a number one to us. We'll take it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the thing is how do you define a number one receiver? And so I think that's, probably that has to be settled before you can have a really in-depth discussion on DJ Moore and whether he's a number one wide receiver or not. He certainly is the number one wide receiver in the Chicago Bears. And to Dan Aguirre's point, probably one of the best number one wide receivers this franchise has ever had. But if you are saying that number one wide receivers are the superstars, the Paul Warfields from yesteryear, the Otis Taylors, the Raymond Berries, all the way down to Randy Moss, all the way down to present day Justin Jeffersons, if your number one definition is in that category, then DJ Moore has not reached that yet. Hopefully he will at the end of the season.
I love the Paul
Warfield. The other thing is again, I don't want to knock DJ Moore. He's the least of this team's problems, but even like last week, right? After coming off that game against Denver, Washington still played one-on-one coverage on him. They didn't put safety help over the top. Typically with number one receivers are guys you try to stop. That's what you do. Going forward, I expect to see that now from opponents saying, all right, we're going to take away DJ Moore. Justin, let's have you beat us with Darnell Mooney, with Cole Kmet, with anybody else you bring out there, but we're not going to let you and DJ Moore beat us again. So that's what I expect seeing moving forward. We'll see what happens.
Aldo, I love the Paul Warfield reference. Do you know how Paul Warfield can tie to the Bears in any way? Because I've got it for you.
I don't.
So Paul Warfield's a Cleveland Brown. He's traded to Miami, right? And part of that trade, they drafted Mike Phipps, who would later go to the Bears.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
We got to play that game, 7 degrees of, Kevin Bacon, but substitute the football player. All right, let's talk about Ryan Poles. I got to let the dog out. I hear him barking, and I hope that he hasn't shit all over my kitchen. I'm here all alone. My wife, Donna, is in Hawaii. And I said, wow, you're going to be working really hard. And she goes, yeah, it's going to be a busy schedule. And then I held up her swimsuit. And I go, really? You're going to work really hard, huh? I will be back in just a minute. But if you guys can start this discussion. And Danny, why don't you start it for us and talk to us about why you're not satisfied with the work of Ryan Poles to this point?
Yeah, for me, guys, it's as simple. In terms of Ryan Poles, we know he came here last year, and first of all, I go track back here a little bit and just say, like, when he was hired, I spoke to a scout friend of mine. I said, hey, Ryan Poles, I know he was a hot shot young guy on the list of future GMs. What do you think? And he said honestly, he goes, Ryan Poles is a very good scout, very thorough in terms of scouting and finding players. I just think he might be just too soon for him to be a GM and just kind of handle the whole organization, be the face of the organization. And so far, to me, I think that's proven to be the case. He comes in last year, without saying what he was going to do. We kind of with his actions, we knew he was going to go ahead and tear down this team and build it back up again. And I understood, Aldo, and so I think the majority of our listeners all understood what he was trying to do. Okay, so but then he goes out there and says, well, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna judge, for example, Justin Fields. We're gonna see see what he does or kind of, base his play and see and kind of come up with a conclusion in terms of the player. But yet you give him no help whatsoever on the offensive line. Now you go sign Lucas Patrick. That was your big free agent signing. I think Lucas Patrick is probably at best a backup in this league. Your best offensive lineman was Riley Reif that you signed last minute after training camp, and he came in and took over right tackle and was your best offensive lineman towards the end of that season. You found a pretty good player in Braxton Jones, a 5th round pick, in the draft. But again, you didn't attack the offensive line. You didn't attack the defensive line. For me, guys, and I've said this so many times, and I'm kind of, you guys are probably sick and tired of hearing me saying this, but you build the team from the offense and defensive line. And if you're a GM and you played the offensive line position in the NFL, and if you come in and your first 2 picks are secondary players, and your 3rd round pick is a receiver slash
gadget
returner / gadget player who can't catch, who you have no receivers on this. You need receivers on this team, and he still can't go out there and run a route for you. So that right there got off to a bad start for me with Ryan Poles, right? And then doesn't attack the offensive line, doesn't attack the defensive line in terms of bringing in some talent. Finally, this offseason was a huge offseason for him. Goes ahead and makes that first, that trade with that first overall pick. Again, we talked about it earlier. I thought he could get more for it. Got what he got. It is what it is now. But a guy comes in this year. Thank God, at least he got an Darnell Wright at right tackle. Goes and signs Nate Davis. I think those are positives. But then defensive line just totally ignores defensive line until a 2nd round with Gervon Dexter and a 3rd round with Zach Pickens. Now, I understand in terms of he was in there. What I heard is the Bears were in there on Javon Hargrave, but they just didn't want to overpay for a guy who was 30 years old. But hell, your defense is predicated. You have a head coach who's a defensive-minded head coach whose system, as antiquated as it is, as much as I hate the damn system, is based off of your four guys getting pressure on the quarterback, your other guys dropping back in coverage and creating turnovers. Your defensive line can't stop a nosebleed, or your defensive line can't get to the quarterback. Okay, you were led last year by your safety in terms of sacks. That's an embarrassment. All right, come in and don't do much in terms of addressing other than those 2 draft picks. Finally, towards the end of the training camp, goes and signs Ngakoue, who's a pass rush specialist. If you will. I think right now Ngakoue is just a 3rd down specialist. Guy. He's not a guy who should be in there on 1st, 2nd downs. Anyway, that to me is malpractice in terms of how he attacks that. Just totally ignored the offensive defense lines initially. All right, and then he comes in and first of all, the whole coaching staff hire was a sham in my opinion. Right, he comes. I think it's hired. Although if you can check the dates real quick, I think he was hired January 25th. Ryan Poles, and he goes, "I'm going to go do these interviews." I think the finalists were Dan Quinn, Eberflus, and I want to say Jim Caldwell. I'm not 100% sure on that. All right, he does these 3 interviews, and within 2 days later, he knows Eberflus is his head coach. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. No way you're gonna sit there and 2 days later and be like, "Oh, I know he's my head coach." All right, so that means he was force-fed. He was force-fed Eberflus because of the Bears organization went and pulled Bill Polian out of his grave and said, "Hey, come find us a GM and come find us a head coach." And Bill Polian gave the Bears this organization, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. So that's where it started bad for me. And then the final straw for me with Ryan. Oh, first of all, then he goes trades Roquan Smith, right? Because he doesn't want to pay him roughly $20 million, and notes the fact that he's not a great fit for this scheme. That also he doesn't produce big plays like interceptions, sacks, blah blah blah. He then goes and gives roughly around the same amount of money for Tremont Edmonds, who's a lesser linebacker who doesn't make any interceptions, doesn't make any tackle sacks or any tackles for loss, and it gets a lesser player. And by the way, you notice how when Roquan was on this Bears defense last year, they were still respectable. Once he was shipped out, the Bears defense went to shit, and then the Ravens all of a sudden shot up. Okay, so and that is another thing right there. You're like, so don't lie to me. Don't tell me either there was a clash personality wise with Roquan Smith because he challenged you in training camp and you held a grudge, and that's why you don't want to pay him, but you went and got a lesser player and pay him roughly around the same amount of money to tell me that he's a better fit in this scheme. That's bullshit. You're lying to me, right? And then the last straw for me, guys, was after week 3. Right, they got off to an 0-3 start after high expectations coming in. Everyone's talking about the 14-game losing streak and so on and so forth. And this team has become basically the laughing stock of the NFL. And lo and behold, and again, I can't prove that this is Ryan Poles or for someone from the coaching staff, but Jay Glazer comes out and says, "Hey, the Chicago Bears are not sold on Justin Fields as their future quarterback." So what that tells me, it's CYA time at Hallis Hall. So they're playing cover your ass. And now we have a scapegoat, guys. If this season goes to shit like it's going to go, hey, it's Justin Fields' fault. He didn't develop. we gave him a shot, and he didn't develop. So that to me was a final straw. The thing they'll do with the Bears is even if you fire Eberflus, which is who I think should be gone, Eberflus after this year, you can probably convince me to keep Ryan Poles for one more season. But then you're thinking about it here, right? It's the same old crap we do every time. We keep the general manager, we hire a new coaching staff, right? And then all of a sudden we fire the GM, and then he has to bring in a whole new coaching staff. And then next thing you know, it's like, now we got to get rid of this quarterback, and we're starting all over again. So if you're going to do this, wipe the slate clean, bring in either like a really strong-willed head coach and have him pick his GM or his talent evaluator, or pick a GM who's done this before, have him bring in as his coach, and then let's pick a lane. If you guys are going to come in and say, I'm a Justin Fields fan. I believe in Justin Fields, but if the head coach comes in and says, I cannot work with this quarterback, I want Drake May, or I want Caleb Williams, or I want Joe Smith, whatever, then you got to give that coach that opportunity to go and coach that player. And for me, then you go ahead and trade Justin Fields. And I think right now, personally, I feel like for his career, Justin Fields' best bet to succeed is probably to be away from his organization. He's had no support whatsoever.
Thank you. Tooch, please start the question of the witness.
Danny's been watching Bears State of Affairs, Aldo.
That's right.
Yeah, a few things, man. I don't disagree with anything that Danny says, because in a lot of my Bears State of Affairs, I said I don't think Poles was the guy who chose Eberflus. I have my suspicions because one, I've knocked the Bears ownership because they're an ownership that needs to hire someone to tell them who to hire, and we want ownership to know already who to hire without hiring anybody outside of that. They're just not football people in a nutshell. That's what I'm saying. Now with the first round pick that Poles traded, I hate to be the one to defend Ryan Poles because I agree with Danny on almost everything he said, but obviously we couldn't get as much as we should because with Justin Fields, he was ascending at that point, and everyone knew we weren't going to take a quarterback. So we couldn't exactly leverage, he ended up getting what we got, which, I understand it wasn't what we deserved, but that was what was out there. And Poles hasn't proven that he can make these good deals. He overpaid for Chase Claypool. He didn't get what was the value of the number one pick. And the other, I'm in agreement with Danny. I would let Poles go. I actually said last week I would have hired him in the first place because I don't think rookie GMs should be learning on the job. It's hard to find coaches. There's only so many of these guys in the NFL, and there's 32 teams. There really aren't that many good coaches, And then with Poles, we really saw the past week with the Chase Claypool thing, just how young he looked, man, when he came out in these press conferences. Like I said this last week, I was like, man, we forget the dude's only 35 years old, but man, this past week he looked like a kid. Before we had seen kind of this Poles, puffy, mature for his age, and then now you see, okay, he really isn't all that. And like Danny said, the first three picks of his draft were, nothing to address the trenches. Brisker and Gordon. Obviously, the Poles came in. Him and Eberflus looked at the team and said, "We can't get off the field on third down. Let's get some defensive backs." But the whole defense that Eberflus runs, it's outdated. I've said this before too. Aaron Curran said he coaches a defense that no longer is relevant in the NFL. Everybody knows how to beat the cover two. Zone beaters. Routes, crossing routes, whatever. But with the first three picks, he should have addressed the trenches. That defense that Eberflus runs, you need a 3 technique. We didn't get one. I mean, even now, Zach Pickens probably should be the 3 technique in there, and Gervon Dexter maybe the nose tackle. I think they're playing. I think they're flip flopped. In my opinion, Gervon Dexter is like a big dude. Pickens is more of the a faster guy. I think maybe in the future they'll reverse that. But yeah, I'm with Danny. I don't like what I've seen. I'm not sure other than Darnell Wright and a few late round, lucky strikes that he's done that well in the draft.
And then, Tooch, thank you. I totally forgot about the Chase Claypool fiasco. They give up that second round pick for Chase Claypool. That's another thing. But the point is, and I was even criticizing his draft class. And I just kind of mentioned those two guys because I wanted them to attack the defensive line. Those two guys could, they're still, you need at least 3 years to give a full, in terms of credit or discredit for a draft class. So that's still, to me, in flux right now. We've seen some good things, we've seen some bad things, but he hasn't done anything that impactful. He hasn't brought anybody in here that's impactful, from his coaching hire to his free agents to his trades. Everything's been disaster. And I told Aldo, if you remember this, I told you and John before last year, I'm like, this past offseason and this upcoming offseason has to be, it's critical. They are pivotal for this franchise. This is where you bring in your building blocks. And if you fail and if you blow these last two off seasons, we don't know about last off season yet. It doesn't, for me at least, other than DJ Moore, there's nothing really looking positive. I mean, Darnell Wright looks positive in terms of draft class, but if he goes in here with two first round picks and he says, I'm going to cover my ass and I'm going to blame Justin Fields for a bad season, I'm going to go get another quarterback. How do I trust this guy to know what the hell he's doing? How do I trust this guy to know how to build this team? You're on mute, Aldo.
You sound like you're making some good points, though.
I was. Danny is making an argument against speculative comments. We don't have any proof that Ryan Poles is blaming shit on Justin Fields. That's all bullshit. So you've been talking about staying to the facts, and the facts are this. And Danny, you said this last year. You nobody should be complaining about this 3-win season. We knew what was happening. Hold on. Let me do it. Let me do it. You knew what was happening, and I knew what was happening, and so we had concrete knowledge that this guy came in and was hired by the McCaskies because he said the only way to build sustainable success is to tear down the franchise, get everybody out, get rid of the big contracts, Quinn, Mack, everybody, and let's start from fresh. Can you work with Justin Fields? We need to see if we can work with Justin Fields. And so he started to build this team from zero except a promising quarterback. So then secondly, yes, there's going to be hits and misses in terms of player acquisitions and so forth. And because he wants to manage the cap, you're not going to bring in a $100 million offensive lineman like McGlinchey at the right tackle. That would be a waste of money. So he has taken a very conservative approach. And with this conservative approach, you have to have patience. So Danny, I say to you, the same patience that you were preaching last year about the entire Chicago Bears organization, that should be extended to this year, because Ryan Poles has sent us direct comments and signals that we can't fix this mess that I inherited in just 2 seasons. Now, he has positioned himself with 2 first-round draft picks next year to acquire those studs. And hopefully, if Justin Fields is the quarterback, then you get a premier, outstanding, all-universe wide receiver, and you get a pass rusher or whatever combination of superstars. You should have them at the end of the 2024 draft. So I think it's much too early to rush to judgment on Ryan Poles.
So, although I agree with your first part, I agree. Yes, I said last year that we can't complain because he's tearing this down. He's going to build it up. Last offseason, I said, and this offseason are going to be 2 pivotal offseasons. But yet he doesn't attack the defensive line. Although you cannot have a team that's got a bad defensive line and a bad offensive line. Now he did go attack the offensive line with Darnell Wright and Nate Davis. I give him credit for that. But then the depth on the offensive line is still lacking. And we see a couple injuries knock these guys out, and the whole thing goes into disarray. So if you're going to build a team, and if there's a GM comes in, I don't care if it's Ryan Poles or any GM, if you come in and if you don't attack and build a team like he says he's going to do from the offense and defensive lines, I lose respect for you right away. I lose respect because that's the way you build these teams. You build it from the offense and defensive lines. His first 2 picks, although were secondary players. And his third pick was a receiver / kick return / punt returner who now can't do shit on the football field. Yeah. So how is that helping build a foundation? That's what I want to know. I'm saying, like, now I'm going to trust him with 2 first-round picks, 2 top 10 first-round picks. How the hell do I know what the hell he's doing? So that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to get someone in here that's going to take this organization that has been or is right now a laughingstock of the National Football League. A founding franchise of the National Football League is a laughingstock. Every major news media outlet is out there is making fun of the Chicago Bears, right? Teams are looking forward to playing the Chicago Bears so they can get better, right? And this guy just totally, ignores the offensive defensive lines. Like I said, this past offseason got the two players on the offense, Darnell Wright and Nate Davis, ignores the defensive line, gets the young guys. But again, this is a team, a defense, a head coach that's predicated on getting pressure with his front four guys, but you give him nothing in terms of his front four guys other than these like 1 year, veterans that basically, would be backups everywhere else. This tells me that this guy has no idea in terms of how to build an actual foundation, actual franchise. And then the coaching hire. And I know that the whole, in terms of the Justin Fields stuff, in terms of, we're going to give him a shot. And I believe in Justin Fields. If you had believed in Justin Fields, you would have set him out there with that shitty ass offensive line last year to get killed. And with his number one receiver being Byron Pringle and Dante Pettis, those are his number one receivers. And you want to give this kid a fair shot?
Again, Danny, you're not listening. You're not listening to my point. How can you acquire guys?
You Justin Fields out there to play with a shitty offensive line, shitty receivers. Okay, and what happened? He went ahead and he started making plays on his own, and lo and behold, Justin Fields started making highlight shows. Justin Fields was voted by his peers, NFL players, as a top 100 player, okay, for a guy that his team lost 10 games in a row. Yeah, big deal. Who else was voted a number one, top 100 player? Oh, Roquan Smith, who he traded away for.
Danny, you asked the question. Danny, you asked the question.
No idea what he's doing. I'm not sure why he's defending him.
You're ignoring.
Name me one.
You're ignoring facts.
You're
ignoring facts, Danny.
I'm not ignoring facts. Give me an impact move.
We talked about destroying.
I'm asking you. Give me one impact move he's made. Give me one.
Impact.
Just
Okay.
DJ Moore.
I'll give you more than one. First of all, the impact move was gutting the roster because every fucking general manager that we've had here has put Band-Aids and tried to create a winner without destroying the roster and starting from set. It's something that I've been crying for 25 years. Destroy the fucking roster, start from set, synchronize it, hire a CEO, hire a president, hire a head coach. Now, that didn't happen this year, but he is at least trying. So when you're asking who else is in the number 100, how can you expect anyone when he just gutted the roster, when he just traded Khalil Mack, when Robert Quinn, an acquisition that he didn't make, was faltering in his career? So you're again not listening to your own comments about, yes, I accepted the fact that he gutted the roster. That's what you said about the 2022 season. That argument continues in 2023.
But he's not building it the right way. He doesn't.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about the right way, because Bear Truth 9 had the perfect question. Who would you have brought in at defensive end? Because I got on my computer right now all the defensive linemen who were drafted in round 2 of the 2022 draft. Do you know who Sam Williams is? Do you know who some of these guys are? Because they're nobody.
Why have we let him get away with the fact that he didn't draft Jalen Carter?
He spent a weekend with Jalen Carter, and he spent the weekend.
Tell me why. Why did he not draft Jalen Carter? Tell me why. I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you, Aldo. I'm saying why. Why did the media let him just say, you know what? I don't want to draft Jalen Carter?
Because there were character concerns, Danny, and you're trying to build a culture. First of all, everyone applauds the fact
he's building his culture. That first year was building
his
culture.
And so why bring in a player? Why bring in a player who can destroy that culture? I don't understand your thinking.
He's not going to destroy culture.
He's going to destroy quarterback. He left the scene of an accident. His partner is in a car that's burning, and he's dying along with a woman, and he left the scene. And so when Ryan Pace spent the weekend with him and got to know him, he said, I can't draft this guy. He might end up being the greatest player, but I can't take that chance with a team that is still developing like a flower. And you can't do it.
He went safe with Darnell Wright.
I'm just saying,
exactly. And Darnell Wright is going to be a Pro Bowl player.
He might be. He might be a Pro Bowl player. I'm saying, but Jalen Carter is an impact player now.
And you would be complaining, how come they didn't get offensive linemen? Okay, you only got so many resources, Danny. It's not like he had 5 first-round draft picks.
But my complaint was more so with the first picks, and not this past draft, but the previous year, where you went secondary with the first 2 picks, and then we went with Velus Jones. When you knew your offense, when you gutted everything, you were going to gut everything. You needed to start with offense and defensive lines. Totally ignored both those positions up front.
Well, I don't know that he ignored, because one of his first acquisitions was going to be Ogunjobi.
And that failed.
Well, again, that was what he decided that medically he couldn't do it, but he was at least trying. The 2 draft picks that we've referenced up front right now, I mean, it's only 5 games into their career. We don't know that they're going to fail. The same thing could be said.
I'm not saying they're going to fail. Aldo, I did the draft show. I like Pickens. I like Zach Pickens, and I like Trevon Dexter, but they're not ready to be impact players right now. They're just developing. So I'm not saying.
Tell me a player that is that you would have picked.
You and I were having. I was not putting his draft class up against his record. I wasn't even utilizing his draft class. I was just saying, because there's going to be hits, there's going to be misses, right? In the draft class. We know that. I'm not even using that against him.
You're saying get rid of the guy, but let's not evaluate his draft class. Let's just get rid of him.
You can't evaluate draft class. You can't say it's good or it's bad. It's not fair to evaluate draft class within a season and a half. That's all I'm saying. I'm not using Velus Jones against him. I'm not using some of the busts against him, right? So far that we see. Right. I'm just saying like that. I'm not even putting that into consideration right now. I'm just saying, what has he done that gives you confidence that this is the right guy this is a pivotal offseason for us, Aldo. The pivotal. If he fucks this up, this franchise is going back 5-6 years. And what gives you any confidence that this guy is the right guy to do it?
Just playing devil's advocate. If I could play devil's advocate, I'm not saying that Danny's wrong. But a couple things that I did like, and I'm not this guy's biggest fan or anything, but I like the fact that he came down and did a presser after week 3 with all the shit that was going on. Ryan Pace wouldn't have done that. He came down and answered.
The organization is embarrassed, Dan. The organization was a laughing stock. Media outlets were laughing at the organization.
I concur. I'm just saying, but he came down to answer questions.
Under his watch, though. That happened under his watch and his coach's watch.
Well, I'm just saying the Alan Williams thing is obviously unfortunate, and I thought he was bad at his job anyway. They're probably better without him, but I like the fact that he came down and did a presser and answered questions and at least tried to put the fire out. His predecessor was a coward in that aspect and would not have done that. I like the fact that he is able to say, you know what? I didn't draft Cole Kmet, but we can sign him. I didn't draft Justin Fields. He's not like the other, I've got to have my guy. He never heard him saying that. He was like, Justin Fields is a talented guy. And, around the draft, it was still up in the air if they were going to draft somebody, but I guess that was gamesmanship. But the point is, he has not so much of an ego that he can't look at the pieces that the other GM drafted and was like, oh, we can win with them. And like I said, he was answering questions. I like that. And we don't know. Brisker gets hurt a lot, but we still don't know if Brisker and Kyler Gordon could still both be really good picks. Darnell up front, the right tackle, looks like he's a solid pick. Who knows? With Claypool gone and St. Brown hurt, we may see a lot from Velus coming up soon. Maybe he gets in the offensive. I mean, I would say he's a bust at this point too, but he may get in and make some significant catches in the coming weeks. It's still too early, I think, to make any declarative statements about this guy has to either stay or go. He's got to have time.
And that's my point exactly, Danny. When I'm defending Ryan Post, I'm not defending him and the moves that he's made because some of them are inarguably bad moves. The Chase Claypool trade, he should not have made, even though I endorsed it at the time. But my point is this. It's too early to pull the switch on this guy. He got the job because he sold it to George McCaskey that this was going to be a 3-year minimum rebuild, that it was going to take time, that he was going to gut the salary cap. He was going to start building with young players. And as you know, Danny, it takes a while for young players to develop. Do I like the head coach that he brought in? Absolutely not. Do I like the coordinators that he brought in? Absolutely not. You can't even fire Matt Eberflus now because you don't have an experienced guy on the staff who could take over for Matt Eberflus. So he has hamstrung himself. That I got tons of negatives about Ryan Post, but the fact is I would never say to fire the guy now because you've got to give him at least 3 years to fulfill the plan that he sold to George McCaskey that got him the job.
Well, my only hope is if this was the McCaskies running this thing or Sweaty Teddy, he's going to be here for at least 5 years minimum. My only hope is Kevin Warren. Kevin Warren comes in here and he sees what's going on here. He sees what the laughing stock that the organization has become around the league and around the national media. And I hope he says, you know what, Phil Emery, he got 2 years, he got the boot. Ryan Poles, 2 years and get the boot. Let's bring in a whole new regime here and try and build. This is a pivotal this past offseason was a pivotal. This is even more pivotal, especially you have 2 top 5 picks, possibly 2 top 10 picks. This is where, and all that, about I think $90 million in cap space, this is where your franchise is built this offseason. And I do not trust Ryan Poles to be the guy to lead me through this and help build this team. Sorry, I just don't have confidence in this guy.
Fair enough. Guys, this has been a great debate, and I apologize to anyone who thinks that it got too intense, but this is the way I debate, and Danny, clearly that's the way he debates. Tooch had some great points looking at things from both sides, and Dan Aguirre, always the voice of reason. Always the voice of reason.
Not really, but...
Danny, tell us what you're working on, or we're going to see you tomorrow on Buffon 55.
Yeah, this is going to continue, guys. Tomorrow, if you like the back and forth here, I'm sure Aldo and I will have a little conversation tomorrow too. I'll be on with Alyssa and John on Buffon 55, and obviously, getting ready for Draft on Tap to come back after the season. So we're still doing some of that work as well. But the other thing is just real quick, although I know we're up against the clock here, we're trying to go, but this whole Justin Fields thing, that thing that came, and again, I don't know what's Ryan Poles. I don't know who leaked it. It could be the coaching staff. Who the hell knows? But the fact that they've already set this kid out to be a scapegoat because he started off 0-3.
We don't know.
Again, I don't know who I don't know who it is, but it's someone from the organization. It's not just Jake Glazer pulling it up and saying, "Oh, a scout told me this." This is someone from the organization leaked it because they're setting him up to be the scapegoat. And this is how it is. This is how these GMs, these head coaches, they keep. That's what Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy did. Hey, we drafted a quarterback, guys. Give us another couple years here to build this quarterback. That's what they're going to do. If this season goes down the tube like it is going so far, they're going to end up blaming Justin Fields, and they're going to go getting another quarterback, and they say, hey, give us another 2-3 years. I just hope that Kevin Warren, I have more faith in Kevin Warren than I do in Ryan Poles, and hopefully Kevin Warren does the right thing.
I will argue if they beat Minnesota Sunday that they're back in it. I mean, maybe not in terms of the division, but at least they're in it for the potential wild card. If they get another conference win, a division win, and then maybe you beat the Raiders and suddenly you're 3-4. I don't think the season's over if they can continue to play the way they did against Washington on both sides of the ball.
I just saw someone say pure speculation. Speculating on what? Jake Glazer went on the Fox, I think it was post-game or pre-game show and said that. So that's not pure speculation. That's Jake Glazer getting a source from the organization saying that.
Who knows if that source is correct? We don't know that. I mean, Jake Glazer has reported on a lot of things that have been incorrect. So I don't know. And I agree with Bruce Ollie, Walter Jordan. Good to hear from you, Danny. Not agreeing, but I love a lot of your take.
I love Bruce Ollie, Walter Jordan. It's like four guys in one. Although
4 of the greatest guys ever in one. Danny, I will see you tomorrow. We're going to have a great show previewing the Minnesota Vikings on Buffon 55. If you have not seen Buffon 55 this season, everyone that has seen it has said, and I am not bullshitting.
I got one last question for Danny.
Hold on. Danny Shimon has been a great addition to that show. He comes on for the last third of the show, and he provides analysis, and it's been fucking great. Tooch, the floor is yours.
Drake May or Caleb Williams?
It's too early for that. Justin Fields, how about that? I like that.
Gun to your head. Are you taking May? Because I like Drake May.
You know what? The one thing that bothers me about Caleb Williams, and on the field, he's a talented passer. Obviously, and what he can do with the football. But the thing that bothers me is all these these TV draft nicks are saying, "Oh, he's a generational talent." There are no quarterbacks. He's going to come in. He's going to come in around 6 feet, a little over 6 feet. There are no generational talents that come in at 6 feet, guys. Yeah. So that's the thing. Is like all these hype around Caleb Williams. There's a lot of stuff that some scouts have said off the football field kind of concern him. He's got some questions to answer about that. So let's pump the brakes on the Caleb Williams loves here. You watch his game. He makes some boneheaded throws as well. Makes some great throws, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. So whoever started calling him Patrick Mahomes liked or whatever junior, it's the same person that probably called Adam Shaheen the baby Gronk. So it's what we got to do. Let's pump the brakes on these quarterbacks. For me, if my prototypical quarterback would be Drake May in terms of size, speed, but the guy that I'm really falling in love with, I'm not saying he's going to be top of the draft guy, is Jordan Travis from Florida State. I like the way he plays. Again, he's a 6th-year player. Yeah. He's a guy that transferred from Louisville. He's got some injuries, so he's a little older up there. But again, I'm not talking about top of the draft or anything like that. I'm talking about if you stick with Justin Fields, bring in a young guy just like fits Justin's skill set. Travis Jordan or Jordan Travis from Florida State is a guy that intrigues me. Bo Nix, another guy who's been there for a long time. And what we've seen, guys, is these guys that have the career games, a multiple game, 30 plus games. Bill Parcells started that trend back in the old days where he said, I need a quarterback that's got at least 30 starts under his belt. And, that's been the trend now is these quarterbacks come up with these multiple seasons in college football, getting to call plays, being there and under the situation. Bo Nix is a guy like that. Jordan Travis is a guy like that. So, again, not top of the first round guys, but more so guys in the bottom half of the first round, second round, because guys, I'm a Justin Fields fan. I'm a Justin Fields believer. And I think he is the franchise of the quarterback of this team. I just don't know if the people running this team believe that.
Or the coaches.
That's right. Dan Aguirre owns like about 18 Justin Fields jerseys, jackets, paraphernalia of all sorts. So he's happy to hear that he has your endorsement. All right, Danny Shimon, we'll see you tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Central, Buffalo 55. We've got a great one planned for you guys, and Danny will be there to make
I still love you, man. You know that, right?
Draft on tap, man.
Can't wait to see you, bro.
I don't agree, but I still love you.
All right, brother.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
That's my man, Danny Shimon.
I wanted to say this year there's a lot of scapegoats, Aldo.
Yes, there are.
It's like a murder mystery. Who's going to stab the next guy in the back?
Mm-hmm.
You
got that right.
Maybe I'm the only person with hope right now. Again, based upon the way they played against Washington, if they come out the same way, they can beat the Vikings. Am I the only one that thinks the season's not over now?
I said, Danny, they could be 3-2.
Right. But moving forward, they could be 2-4 this weekend and maybe 3-4. I feel like if they can play that aggressive on defense and Justin continues what he's done the last few weeks, it's not over yet. It's not over.
Nope. We're talking beating the Vikings, beating the Raiders,
I
and
think
getting
they'll probably
3.
win on Sunday.
Yep. And then they got to make that trip to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. But
That's gonna be a little tougher.
I'm not. Yeah, that's a good football.
Khalil Mack revenge game, Danny.
Yeah.
No, we're going to get revenge on him this time. We're going to shut him down with our rookie right tackle because that's who he's going to try to exploit. He always goes after the inexperienced, but our guy's going to be up to the challenge.
Thank you. I love that. I'm not afraid of the Chargers. They're a good football team, but I'm not afraid of them. They can be had on the road, week 8. So then we're talking what? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm not afraid of Carr either in New Orleans. I'm just not.
I'm not either. I'm with you.
Oh yeah, but that.
I am afraid of Detroit right now because Detroit is playing really good football. Yeah. Beating Green Bay, beating Kansas City on the road. But hey, if you can win a bunch of games, week 11, set up a showdown. But one game at a time, man. Let's just get Minnesota.
Yeah. Joe is right, though. The Lions games are the hardest of the season. The Lions have a good team.
And that Green Bay game at the end because we just haven't beaten them. Maybe it's mental.
I know we've been talking Patrick Mahomes a little bit with Danny comparing. I'll tell you, Patrick Mahomes would love to have DJ Moore right now. I'll tell you that. Imagine, his wide receiver room sucks.
Yeah,
you ain't kidding about that. They're still winning and stuff, but there's no star on KC since they let Tyreek Hill go.
I'm surprised that the Chiefs didn't. Well, maybe they did. They put in a bid for Claypool, but if it was worse than the Dolphins, they must have been offering some barbecue sandwiches or something.
A great point, Aldo, because I meant to go back to that because what he got back in return for Chase Claypool really kind of shows you how big a mistake it was.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we hold that one mistake against him forever. And it's like, get rid of him because of that one thing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it doesn't look good after what we got back.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Dan,
I defend him though for that. For the number, he couldn't make a good quarterback because Bears didn't need a quarterback at the time. Carolina, the people that were, the ones who wanted the quarterbacks at the top. They're like, we don't need to order. Bears aren't taking Bryce Young. They're not taking C.J. Stroud. They got Justin Fields. We'll give them what we'll give them,
Good point. All right. Dan has been watching a lot of TV the last couple of weeks. He wants to share a couple of programming notes. But before he does, let's go check the weather with Gabriela Aguilera. She's going to tell us what the weather looks like over at Soldier Field on Sunday. It is going to be rainy. I'm glad you're not here for this game, Dan Aguirre.
Yeah, I hate rain.
54 degrees, 47, and the weather will not be hot, but Gabriela certainly is.
That weather favors the Bears.
That does, right?
You know,
That
you got the Vikings have a precision passing game. You know, with speed players on the outside, the Bears are going to pound it with Dante Foreman. The Vikings have not been able to run the ball with Alexander Madison. The Bears' offensive line is improving. Dante Moore's a beast, like Danny said. Man, I'm anxious to see him. I knocked the Bears last time for having him. I was on tailgate. I don't like the fact that we got down to Kari Blazikamp. I love Kari, but we should have never been down to that. You know, running back is the position with the highest amount of injury attrition.
Yep.
You know,
indeed.
we should have. I mean, it didn't come back to bite us, but we should have been able to unleash Dante Foreman for the second half of that game.
Dan Aguirre, tell us what you've seen on the tube that you want to share with the millions of people listening.
I only have like 5 minutes, so I don't have a lot of time, but I'll tell you a couple of things that got me started this weekend. I heard, do you remember who Sean Young is? The actor?
Yes, beautiful woman.
Oh, yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Blade Runner.
Well, she apparently had this huge falling out with James Woods.
Right.
And she said that he sabotaged her career and all this. But I watched a movie that they were in together. And then I watched her, and I'll get to it, but I was watching her promote it on David Letterman in 88. And it's so weird. She has a pit full of arm hair, and she just keeps showing it and trying to tell David, like, how hot, like, it is. And wow, she was clearly high or something on this, on the, I'll send you a picture of it if you want, Aldo.
Yeah, please.
Well, I had drug abuse problems, I think, in the past.
Yes, she did.
Or partying problems, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it was a bizarre appearance, but I watched the film with her and James Woods on cocaine, which was very too real. Like, you know what I mean? Just it was, but it was called God.
I know the movie, and I have refused to see it because the reviews that I read, there was such a downer. But I don't remember the title.
It's like The Bump, not The Bump. It's God damn it. Why don't I have it? I don't have but a second on the air still. I'll look it up. But I watched another James Woods movie. Oh, by the way, she apparently said that James Woods has a huge cock, which makes me very happy.
Why would that make you happy?
You know, I wish I was one of the big cock guys. Apparently he's huge. And I'm like, okay, but like I wish I had the problem of like, well, his dick is so big that, you know,
He's
women
one of our
are
better actors, man.
Yeah, I thought he was very good too. I watched an excellent film with him that I had never seen. But I watched an excellent film. I mean, great that I had never watched in my entire life with him and Jeff Bridges called Against All Odds.
Oh, yes. Love that movie.
Yeah.
Love it. Yes.
There's the picture. She was just all the one about the cocaine is called The Boost.
Is that Dylan Mulvaney?
Wow, those are hairy.
Yeah, she told Letterman, I didn't know this, that she was cast in the original Batman, the one with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, and fell off a horse. And she lost her part because she broke her shoulder and she couldn't shave her armpits. She said, so that's why. And she said, but I've grown to really like it. What do you think, David? And David was like ashamed and didn't want to say anything. He's always kind of weird anyway. Say it again.
Don't you kind of like that?
Yeah, I do. That's what I'm saying. But it was interesting that how uncomfortable David Letterman was in the performance was my point. I also watched, I watched a lot of TV this weekend when I was working out, but I watched that new Pet Sematary because it was on Paramount. It's not going to the theaters, Paramount Plus. Without giving you spoilers, Pam Grier was in it. The boy who's the lead character, you remember Married with Children, right? The Al Bundy, Ed O'Neill show. His wife on it, Kathy Siegel, is this kid's mom, who was the lead. Siegel. Yeah, she was the kid's mom, who's the lead actor in the new Pet Sematary film. Cool. Yeah, I like the acting in it, I guess. I found it to be a little rushed. Like it's only like an hour and 20 minutes. And that was my criticism. It was too fucking short. Like, it really could have gone places, I thought, but it was just too short and too rushed. Maybe they ran out of money or something where they were filming it. I don't know, but it was too short.
Sometimes what happens is there's a bunch of scenes that don't work. The acting was bad or the camera work was bad. And so they end up cutting that stuff, and it ends up making the movie shorter and sometimes less likable. So maybe that was part of it too.
One more that I'll tell you about then that I'd never watched. Apparently, it originally aired on ABC in 1989, but I sent you a clip of it earlier. The guy that was playing Richard Nixon was fabulous. He looked like him. It sounded like him. A lot better than Anthony Hopkins. I love Oliver Stone's film, but I thought Anthony Hopkins was way off as Nixon. The dude that played Nixon on this TV movie, which was named after the book I read 25, 30 years ago that Woodward and Bernstein wrote, called The Final Days. And this movie was entitled The Final Days based upon that book. And it was one of those made-for-TV films, so there wasn't a lot of cussing, but it was really well done. And most of the stuff in it is, you know, things you already knew. Like there was the scene where he makes Kissinger pray with him, and Kissinger's looking at him like he's trying to get him to jerk him off or something. And, you know, he's talking to the photo, the portraits, all these things that people have said about Nixon for years. But the movie was well done, and I enjoyed it. It was 2.5 hours, originally a made-for-TV film, but I enjoyed it. It was really good shit.
Lane Smith.
One for Danny.
I was just going to say real quickly, Lane Smith is the actor that played Richard Nixon in that movie. And you probably have seen him in a million movies. He was the lawyer against Joe Pesci in My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, yeah. Marissa Tomei carries that film for me.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
She's so hot.
Danny, you're a big fan of True Detective.
You're right.
Now, there is a #1 movie on Netflix right now called Reptile. It was written by Benicio del Toro, stars Benicio del Toro.
I love Del Toro.
It is really excellent, man. I'm telling you, it's like a slow burn detective movie. Benicio del Toro is a cop investigating this murder. And, man, it's a first-time director who he's been doing, like, music videos. Really good, though, man. It's, like, slow, tracking camera. A slow music and everything. It's a slow burn, man. It's good. It's Alicia Silverstone plays Benicio del Toro's wife. Eric Bogosian is his voice.
I love him too. Talk radio.
Exactly. Great
I forget.
movie.
There's some other actors in it as well too. And I don't want. Justin Timberlake is in it. He's really good too. It's like, who are these guys? Michael Pitt is in it too. He plays this.
Is that a movie or like a limited series?
It's a full-length movie, about 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It's on Netflix right now. Man, it is so good, man.
I won't be able to check it out until.
Couldn't take my eyes off it.
I won't be able to check it out until Friday. Like all my spare time between now and then will be high school football preparation.
Aldo's going to watch this, I think, in the next day or two. Is going to be.
I'll watch it over the weekends. What I'm saying, probably Friday night, maybe Saturday night, but I'll definitely watch
that.
Like
True Detective, man, this is right in the same, right in that sweet spot.
Well, I really like Benicio del Toro, so
yeah, great actor. We'll talk about it next week.
Puerto Ricano.
Yes, he is. Puerto Ricano.
He's tall too. He's like Dan McGuire height.
Dan, do you have 2 minutes?
Yeah, go ahead. I got to go after that.
Check out this preview.
The cyclone was coming at us from the east. We were sailing blind through the rain and the spray. My executive officer went into a panic. He repeatedly tried to order me off the bridge. I told him he was performing a mutinous act.
The trial counsel will state the charge.
Charge 1, mutiny.
Did you relieve the commander of the USS Caine?
Yes.
Captain Queeg had lost control.
We had the commander under constant observation. You felt you had the right to depose a commanding officer on the grounds of mental illness.
Yes.
Did you think he was insane?
Can you describe when and where the captain displayed this aversion to danger? No. Why do his hands tremble?
Objection.
The honor and career of an officer with an unblemished military record of 21 years standing is involved. Counsel and the witness are herewith cautioned that they are treading on dangerous and unprecedented grounds here.
I don't understand what you're doing. I want to win this case. I have a chance with one heroic exec. Making that stick is the only chance for you to win.
He was a petty tyrant and utterly incompetent.
I've had a spotless record up until now, and I was stabbed in the back.
Are you testifying that Merrick deliberately violated his captain's orders?
It's the principle of respect for the command, and that principle was dead.
Did you offer to alter the logs?
That's a lie.
Answer the
Again,
question, please.
It's a malicious lie.
Objection! The witness is being badgered.
Isn't it obvious that one of you is not telling the truth?
Outstanding movie. Outstanding. It is William Friedkin's, Danny, I know you're going to love this, William Friedkin's last movie. Exactly.
Right.
And the actor, what's his name? Lance Reddick. It was his last movie,
he
too.
passed away recently, too. Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Jerry
The one-
West.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The one guy who played Jerry West in Winning Time. He was in the Pet Cemetery 2019 remake, too. He was the lead actor in that.
He's a good actor. He started in
Jason Clarke.
He started in one of the Dick Wolf Chicago TV shows, the Chicago Police, Chicago PD, something like I don't know.
Chicago, whatever the fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Zero Dark 30.
J Rock.
I hated that movie.
That was him in that the lead.
That's right. That's right. I thought that was a good movie, Danny.
I thought it sucked. I didn't like
Really?
it at all. I thought Zero Dark 30 was. I had high expectations. I didn't like it.
Yeah, J Rock. It's on Showtime. The Caine Mutiny is on Showtime,
It's a
and it takes
remake
place.
of
Yes.
the original Caine Mutiny movie, right?
Thank you. 1954. Humphrey Bogart, Van Johnson,
Man,
Fred
I can't
McMurray.
wait for this one.
Yeah, well, it's on already. I saw it
it's
last
on
night.
already? Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I saw it last night and thought it was fantastic. You
Excellent.
guys will love it. All right, Dan, you got to leave.
I do. I got to get to work, man. It's a
All
big
right,
night
Danny.
too. There's a new update with our system, and it's learning how to write left-handed. And unlike yourself, I'm right-handed, so I got to learn how to be ambidextrous now. So it's a lot of stress at work. Plus, I got to write my high school stuff out for this weekend. So
It's a great tool to have, being ambidextrous, because you can jerk off with the left hand, the right hand, both hands.
I said that all the time. It's a joke, but it's true. When I was young and couldn't get it, if I was going through a dry period, because when you're in high school, it's not always that simple. I would beat off left-handed and pretend it was a girl doing it, because my left hand has no idea what the fuck's going on. So
that's a promo. That's definitely a promo.
yeah, the left hand, I would be covered in sweat and just frustrated before I would get to the climax. But I'd get there and I'd just pretend in my fantasy it was a chick doing it.
That's hilarious. All right, get out of here. Go save some lives.
All right, see you all later.
That is Dan Aguirre, my good friend and confidant, and Johnny.
I'm over on the
said-
left now. I was on the right before.
I know you're definitely should be on the right.
Aldo, you got to see Reptile. I mean, it's your kind of movie.
Sounds great.
You know?
It sounds great. Yes, I got to check. Now, what service is that on?
Netflix.
Netflix. All right, I might turn it on tonight.
Yeah,
got a little energy going on here.
Did I watch it? I did see another movie. I saw a movie called The Sound of Freedom with Jim Caviezel.
Oh yeah, how's that? Isn't that like a political film? I heard there was like a lot of political
It's just
stuff.
about child sex trafficking,
Okay.
And Tim Ballard's a Department of, Jim Caviezel plays a guy who's a Department of Homeland Security officer, and his job is to get pedophiles.
So who plays Hillary Clinton?
I don't know.
Just kidding. Yeah, I'm a Democrat. I'm just kidding.
But I mean, there's some creepy, stuff. Man, the opening scene is just heartbreaking because it's there's this scammers going on. This lady goes to a house and she she wants, is your dad here? She's like, your daughter, we saw her last year, and we think she could really be a talent. She's got to come tomorrow to this audition. And then the little boy comes into the room. It's like, oh, and who's this? Bring him too. They go and they they're taking all these like photos. And then all of a sudden they start to get more adulty photos of the children. And then the father, he's like, come back at 7 p.m. He comes back at 7 p.m. They're cleared out and his children are kidnapped. And it's just it's so brutal, man. That the father's so Tim Ballard is the guy who through this pedophile that he catches, he rescues the son, you know, and he's like, oh, I did it, you know, because him and his partner were like, all we do is catch the pedophiles, you know, I can't do anything about the children if they're in other countries.
Right.
You know, he ends up, the guy brings the child across the U.S. border, and they're there. They rescue this kid, and the kid and the father are like, they still have, my daughter is still missing, you know, and he can't walk away. Tells his boss, I can't. It's impossible for me to walk away from this without trying to save this young girl. I mean, I'm telling you, the stuff they got. It's got Bill Camp. I don't know if you know who Bill Camp is.
No, let me look him up.
He was in The Night Of. He was the cop. He's a character actor. Camp is his last name.
Yeah, Bill Camp, 12 Years a Slave. Yeah, he's an excellent actor. He was in that Stephen King miniseries. Do you remember that? What the hell is it?
Excellent. And Jim Caviezel is a good actor, man. And both of these two guys in it, and they hatched this plan. They're in Venezuela or Colombia, somewhere like that, to catch these pedophiles. And it's like a drama, you know, as they go along through these things. Another like police procedural. But it's good, man. It almost made me cry. It's like these kids,
Really?
you know. Yeah, it's excellent. I saw it on bootleg though, so it should be out soon, you know. I imagine.
Okay,
Excellent movie.
I know it was trending on social media for a long time, you know, and it seemed like a lot of people were talking about, you know, people don't want you to see this movie and so forth. And Stephen Mia, in fact, might be commenting on that. Has become mired in controversy.
It was the top grossing film of 2023, made on a low budget and made sold the most amount of tickets. But
all right, so here's what Steve says. He says it's been mired in controversy over criticisms that it features misleading depictions of child exploitation and plays into right-wing conspiracy theories associated with QAnon. What do you think about that?
I think Stephen Mee's been propagandized. If you think child sex trafficking, which is recently in the news as being the U.S. being one of the largest consumers of United States sex trafficking and child pornography, the U.S. is the largest or one of the largest consumers of this. So I mean, if you think it doesn't exist or you think it's some kind of right-wing conspiracy, I don't know, man. It's a real crime problem.
Well, Steve was just quoting something he read in Time magazine. So what I suggest is Tooch share this bootleg copy and we all take.
I mean, it's based on a true story. How much more can you get? It was a true story.
I think part of the problem is that some of the people behind the production of the film have been known for their far right controversial political views, and so that's why the film has been mired in criticism, as Stephen said.
Funny that we don't criticize far left political views when they make movies, though. I'm just saying. I don't know whether.
I think that some are.
If a film is good, it's good. No matter what. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like for instance, give me an example of a far left movie that we have not criticized. Can you think of one off the top of your head? I know that's not an easy question, but can you think of one?
I don't know. Maybe what is that? I'd have to come back on it now. Maybe,
that's fine. Maybe think about it. We'll talk about it further next week. But I do think that, there's no doubt at all that Hollywood predominantly are left wingers. They're people from the left. And, my criticism of many of those liberals is that they're wine sipping, teetotaling liberals who, talk a lot of shit and don't
far away from the problems.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's open the borders, but they don't want to live near the borders. Kind of stuff. That pisses me off.
If the migrants come to Martha's Vineyard, they don't want them there.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. Perfect example. So, so there's criticism to go everywhere: left, right, middle, up, down, what have you. Almost any movie.
There's plenty of liberal movies that are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm not going to attach whether a good movie. If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. I mean, and based on a true story. So I mean, it really happened. Maybe it was dramatized a little bit, and that's part of what
and all movies are, right?
all movies are drama. Like Winning Time, we loved it. It was dramatized.
Exactly.
Heavily. It didn't happen exactly like that, but
indeed.
You know where else there's a lot of drama too, Aldo? The Bears organization.
I'm telling you, we got to get Jeff Pearlman, who wrote Winning Time. We got to get him back to.
Man, what a great interview!
Yeah, Jeff Pearlman should really do.
When he was in the show, I was like, there he is.
Yeah.
When he came out, I was like, I wouldn't have known it was him.
Because we've seen him so much on social media.
Yeah, he was on the show here. I recognize.
He really should do a book on the McCaskey family, because that would be fascinating if he could get the inside stories on what's happened there. I mean, because I believe there's been rumors that there's turmoil among the McCaskey Hallis family members. Wow. Some want to sell, some don't want to sell. Some have been really pissed off at how embarrassed the national laughingstock, as Danny put it. Yeah. So it would be really fascinating to see from this old, wealthy family and how they handle the Bears.
They should sell. But I got a little worried when you were yelling at Danny. I was like, man, Aldo's really mad.
No, you know what?
I know. For a minute.
I dislike it, and I apologize to Danny, and I'm going to write him a message letter. I apologize that I came off so strong, but I really dislike it when people are calling for somebody's job and I don't think that they've given them a fair shot. And Danny is very, very smart. He spends a lot of time studying football.
And he's got Draft on Tap.
Yeah, he's really, really good at what he does. And I'm just surprised that he is taking this point of view on Danny deserved it. I agree with you, David. God damn it, he deserved it.
Oh my God.
But it was fun having that kind of debate. It's very cathartic to let all that shit out.
Yeah. I think I wanted to ask you the question though, from what we're just talking about with the Bears organization, Rand Poles and Danny Shimon. How should you judge a GM on their performance?
Yeah, that's a great effing question. And I think that first and foremost, it's the players that you acquire. First in the draft, because that's the greatest pipeline supply of players. You want to draft really good players. And then secondly is the investment that you put into free agents. You want to try to find high value, and you don't want to spend for a big contract until you need that one player to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. That's I think on a very basic level. Plus, setting the culture, hiring good coaching staff. One of the big mistakes Ryan Poles has made is 3 inexperienced guys leading the coaching staff.
Yeah,
an inexperienced head coach, never had coach before.
Reading from my notes.
There you go. And 2 coordinators who just haven't had the experience. That was a mistake.
And that kind of logically follows from the Jalen Carter. He said, Danny said, you said he would disrupt the culture. Well, then Poles didn't believe in Matt Eberflus to control the culture. If they were to draft Jalen Carter, so
that's a great point. That really is a great point.
What'd you hire Matt Eberflus for?
Yeah, exactly.
If you can't draft a talented but troubled player.
I used to make that argument with Phil and Shane when they were against Martellus Bennett. And I was like, well, if John Fox can't handle Martellus Bennett, then John Fox shouldn't be the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Because you can't have players like this.
Jalen Carter, he shouldn't be head coach.
I agree with that.
Because you put a coach like Andy Reid or Kyle Shanahan and Jalen Carter or Bill Belichick, Jalen Carter going to fall right in line.
Mm-hmm.
That's
a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Now, Poles, he said this publicly, is that we weren't ready to take a chance on a player like that, and I can see that. Yeah. You're just building a young team. If you bring in a guy who is going to go out partying and racing down the street 120 miles per hour because he may not have learned his lesson, and that's all speculative. But you're taking a chance. And when you talk to a guy like Darnell Wright, who's the kind of guy, hey, if I had a daughter who was 6 foot, 160 pounds, I'd like you to meet her and marry her. Yeah. Not my tiny little daughter, no.
We forget that they're kids, these players, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it was a great discussion tonight. It really
It was. And you're always bringing it. And by the way, for those people who tuned in last Friday to watch Weekend Sports Betting Tips and it wasn't on, it was Somebody Big Just Died. We had to preempt some Weekend Sports Betting Tips to get the Dick Butkus eulogy from Mike North and our sponsors over at Cumberland Champ.
My radio son forgot that I do a show on Friday. What the heck?
It's probably my fault. I should have sent out a telegram to everybody.
But I would have loved it if, say, Joe and Mike did 6:30, and then we did some crosstalk. Mike comes in and gives a pick at 7. That would have. Maybe,
I like that idea.
That's what I was hoping. I was trying to get that. I was asking Joe, ask Mike, come on, can you do 6:45, and then we'll do 7:15, or something like that.
Okay.
But, Joe was
you know what? I'm going to bring that up with Mike because that would be a lot of fun.
Oh man, you guys love it. Not before Italian guys talking with their hands.
That's right. Well, listen, this has been a fun show, and I apologize for anyone if I got too out of control there.
You got to see Reptile, Aldo. Man, I'm telling you.
You know what?
It's like Benicio is freaking awesome. He's such a good actor.
My wife is out of town, as I said earlier. Yeah. She's in Hawaii, so I might stay up late and watch that one. The other one I want to see is the one that Dan mentioned.
I gotta get that Caine Mutiny. That's Paramount, right?
Yes. No, the Caine Mutiny, the new one, the new version is on Showtime.
Showtime, okay.
Now, Jay
Showtime by Paramount or Paramount?
Yeah, Jay Sanders. Jay Sanders said in the chat that his Paramount.
I have
Showtime,
both of them, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Jay Sanders said that Paramount is Showtime on his service. I'm not sure that's the same with mine.
They merged or one bought the other or something?
I hope so. That would be great for me.
Yeah.
James Ford says, Aldo, I thought it was a great debate, and I agree with what you were saying. Thank you, man.
both you guys are saying things I couldn't disagree with.
Yeah.
It's too hard,
you just wish we were saying it at a lower volume.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure the audience loved it. They loved it.
Retro says Aldo will be whacking his dicks like it owes him money.
What?
I don't know what retro means by that.
That's retro now. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you know what?
A new name
for like over a month, like the last 6 shows that we've done tonight. I've seen Sports Talk USA, and I'm like, who is this person? And then finally I looked at the graphic and said, that's fucking retro. Of course.
Yeah, I thought he was like just taking a break from hanging out with us.
Yeah, we miss you, Retro.
What? Like you don't want to hang out with us anymore, Retro?
Okay, so J Rock said he paid extra to add Showtime to Paramount.
Okay, all right. So I got both.
Guys, we got to start stealing this stuff. It's getting too expensive. Too expensive.
I think Apple TV was offering a package I bought for $9.99 a month. You got Paramount, Showtime, and AMC.
That's not bad.
3 for 1, which I thought was good.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yep.
My wife is going to retire soon, and so we've made the promise that we're going to look at all of the streaming services that we subscribe to and start cutting some out. Because I'm telling you, with Comcast and all the streaming services, we pay like about $1,000 a month. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Anthony showed me how to unlock a Fire Stick and download a thing where you just get everything. Except one thing I'm missing on that is it doesn't have closed captions, and I have to watch a movie with captions because I'm fucking deaf. And like sometimes I can't figure out what they said. Like, what the fuck did he? And you get so much more out of it when you see the captions too. You're like, oh, okay.
Sports Talk USA is saying that he's not retro. So, do I have that wrong?
He's lying.
I think he is. Yeah. Retro, wherever you are, we miss you. The real retro.
Get a jailbreak Fire Stick. It's Fire Stick. It's easy to jailbreak it. It's like 2 steps. You go into it, and you go into the Fire Stick settings, and you say unlock developer options. So like as if you're like going to develop your own app on the Fire Stick. Mm-hmm. They allow you to do that. And then you download an app called Downloader, which is weird because I know you download an app called Downloader. Then you download an app called Streams. And it's you have to go online and like set up your account on Real Streams and pay $11 a month, and then you have everything. Every show, every live broadcast, like from TV stations, Anchorage to Timbuktu,
Wow. I love it.
across the U.S. So if you wanted to watch, say, like the Florida State game, you just go to the Jacksonville ABC affiliate. Boom, there it is. You watch Jordan Travis, Jared Verse, playing and stuff. Or Notre Dame, you go to like in Indianapolis, or West Lafayette, South Bend, local, and then that's how I get the Bears game, because for a while I'd have to go to a Bears bar or something, and watch the game. Now I can.
Yeah. Look at what Zach is saying.
$11 is still too much.
No, Zach is saying that there's an FBI van pulling into your driveway in about 20 minutes.
Department of Homeland Security.
That's right. All right, Tooch, any final words, and we'll get you out of here.
Nope. A little bit of a cold streak right now. Like
it happens.
Yeah, it happens. Yep. I'm ice cold right now. Just can't, unless I was watching the game. It was tied with Appalachian State, and they lost. So
no,
the losing streak continues. Yeah, man, I'm just like ice cold. I can't win. I got to tell my clients, just whatever I give you, bet the opposite.
For the next week or two.
And I'm researching. I'm like, this all adds up. Look at the trends here, that, this and that. It just goes the opposite way. So,
it's a tough racket you're in. I'll tell you that, man.
Very tough.
Tucci, you're the greatest for Dan Aguirre and Danny Shimon. My name is Aldo Gandia. Yeah, and all the Barflies. Everyone that was with us for the live iteration of this show, thank you very much. You're a big part of what makes the show so cool and so fun for us. We react to what you're saying, and you're like friends, very good friends to all of us here. So really appreciate it. Yeah. So we will be back here. Tooch will be back on Friday with weekend sports betting tips, and then on Sunday with
Barfly
Tailgate Show. But by the way, on social media, if you want to see Tooch's suggestions for who to pick up and draft on the waiver wire, if you've got a fantasy football team, find that in the Barroom Network's Twitter account. And I know Tooch has already reposted it. So we'll do that again tomorrow morning so that it's fresh on your timeline. For everyone who works at the Barroom, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.